Hello guys, welcome to the fiction series. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto got harem with Milokaross and Juniper? Part 2. If you want more awesome fan fiction like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, so without wasting any time, let's get into the video. Many people visiting Mombasa City would stop by Route 16 to rest. It was early in the morning, so not that many people were there, save for the early-morning jogger or hiker. The early morning symphony was interrupted by the sound of flapping wings. "Here should be good, Arrow," Red said. Red was an 18-year-old man standing at 5'7" with light skin, short black hair, and red eyes, wearing a plain black shirt underneath an open red jacket with white sleeves and a high white collar, dark blue pants with a plain belt, red and white shoes, and a red and white cap with a black symbol near the top left of the cap. "Arrow? Aerodactyl," Arrow exclaimed. Arrow was a large bipedal Pokemon named Aerodactyl. Its head had two vicious eyes, pointed ears and a mouth full of serrated fangs. It had lightly violet-gray skin over much of its body, two pale violet membranes stretched between its arms and sides. Arrow had plate-like spines going down its back, leading to its strong triangular spatted-up tail. The fossil Pokemon begun its descent, eventually landing on the ground and allowing his trainer to land outside Mombasa City. "Return," Red said, pulling out Arrow's Pokeball, the large bipedal fossil Pokemon vanishing in a red light. It was then that Red took note of his surroundings, observing the sway of the grass in the gentle breeze, and a few pie doves and lillipups roam around before humans could occupy most of the area. Arcia said that this Naruto could be found in Mombasa City at the moment. "I guess I should get to it then," he mumbled, walking into the everlit Grand Mombasa City. "Grand Suite, Le Beacon Luminu Hotel." Oh, Naruto groaned out, holding his comically bruised head as a river of comical tears flowed from his eyes. "Again, so sorry," Luca said apologetically, having changed out of her lingerie into her usual attire. Naruto, on the other hand, was still reeling from the punch to the head filled with righteous feminine fury, so he was left in his boxers. "I haven't had my head ringing like this since Sakura," Naruto thought. "I bet the twins were up to this," Luca stated. "They're definitely going to pay, I don't know how, but they will." "What are you gonna do?" Haku questioned. "I'm going Toto," Luca said, unsure of how to get revenge on Rin and Len. "Please, allow me to do the planning here," Naruto interrupted, standing back up as he spoke. "You obviously don't have that much experience with getting back at someone for pranking you, but I do. So let me come up with a prank." "How do I even know if you're good at it?" Luca questioned. "I once painted a national monument in broad daylight wearing a orange jumpsuit and didn't get caught until I was finished," Naruto stated. "You'd Welfine, just give 'em hell when you do," Luca finally conceded. "Alright. We're gonna need tar, feathers, honey, a golf club, a rubber hand, a fishing pole, an electric razor, and breadsticks," Naruto exclaimed, maniacally laughing, causing both Luca and Hatsune to sweat drop. "Will this prank require taking them to the hospital?" Luca hesitantly asked. "Those mild burns and some psychological scarring count as a need for sending them to the hospital?" Naruto questioned. "How bad of a psychological scarring we talking about?" Luca asked. "They'll never look at Italian food the same again and flinch every time there is even a mention of a breadstick," Naruto replied. "Nah, I don't think that requires a visit to the hospital," Luca said. "I don't think so either," Hatsune added. "Can I videotape it?" "I'm going to need a lot of cameras capable of taking both photo and video then," Naruto stated, running out of the room. He popped his head back in to add a side note. "Oh. And an editing software as well." "Should we stop him?" Hatsune questioned. "No, if he's focused on this, then he'll hopefully forget our little bet yesterday," Luca said, only for her hopes to be dashed as Naruto ran back into the room, somehow coming back in with all his clothes on. "Don't think I've forgotten about our little bet. And speaking of that, get your manager. You gotta get in contact with the Gamma Sennin," Naruto exclaimed, a grin on his face as Luca turned a beet red. "With Red?" Red walked into Mombasa City, his aura sensing abilities going haywire. "This man has such a massive aura. No wonder Arceus has taken notice of him," Red thought. The champion of the Pokemon world suddenly felt a tugging feeling in the back of his mind, his feet guiding him to the nearest alleyway. Looking left and right, Red made sure that no one was following him before entering the alleyway. Once he reached the end of the alley, a strange blue dimensional rift opened up and a lone figure was seen inside it. The figure was a strange giant floating right-hand glove. "Master Hand. What are you doing, calling me in a place like this? Isn't entering another dimension for you quite risky?" Red questioned. "I haven't entered your dimension, Red. I have merely opened up a link between the dimensions so as to communicate with you." The glove, now identified as Master Hand, corrected. "But what is it that you need to tell me that it merits a need to do this?" Red asked. "I heard of Arceus's request to send someone to this dimension," Master Hand stated. I want you to test this person. And should he show potential, I must be informed. Whoa, really? You're actually considering sending him an invitation to the tournament? Red questioned in shock. Well, of course. If he's being sent to this dimension, might as well have him participate. Master Hand said. I will contact you in a few days' time, and by then I expect you'll have your results from this person. And with that, the dimensional rift closed. Red stood there for a few seconds before exiting the alleyway, a newly found look of determination in his eyes. But Naruto and Luca, and Luca's manager, Ken, all stood in the same room, both Naruto and the manager looking at Luca, the former with a look of expectancy, and the latter looking at her like she had grown a second head. Could you run that by me one more time? Ken asked. Look, I made a bet with this guy over here, and I lost. Luca stated. And now she has to go through with being the next model for Uchiha. Harem Master, I mean the Uchiha series. Naruto exclaimed, a nosebleed present as he got into a similar pose as his predecessor did when he hit the perverted jackpot. You, Sira god amongst men. Ken exclaimed, dropping down to his knees and bowing to Naruto. You were able to convince the #1 sexiest female celebrity of the past 3 years into becoming the next model for Uchiha. I am not worthy. Just get it over with already. Luca yelled, getting her manager to stand back up at lightning speeds and pull out his transceiver. Don't worry, I met the publisher of the Uchiha series, and one night at a poker game, I was able to win the number to contact the Gamma-senin off of him. Ken said, entering the numbers into his transceiver. Coincidentally, Naruto's transceiver suddenly began ringing. Oh, do you mind if I get this? Naruto asked. Not at all, go for it, dude. Ken said. Sweet. Naruto said, picking up the incoming call. Hello? Ah, good. This number works. Ken exclaimed, oblivious to the fact that it was Naruto on the other end of the call. Is this the right number? Am I speaking to the Gamma-senin? Who wants to know? Naruto asked. I'm the manager for Meguri and Luca. Have you heard of her? Ken questioned. Yeah, recently I've heard of her. Naruto abruptly stopped at the same time as Ken did. The two of them slowly turned around to look at each other. You're the author of Uchiha, Luca, Ken exclaimed. Shit. Naruto said, deflating slightly now that his secret was out. At speeds that would make his father jealous, Naruto found Ken right up in his face, holding 5 first edition copies of Uchiha. Please assign me books, please assign me books, please assign me books. Ken exclaimed, stars in his eyes as he went into fanboy mode. And this is why I try to keep it a secret. Naruto deadpanned, pushing the immobile Ken aside. You're a pervert. Luca yelled, turning her head away so that Naruto wouldn't see her blush and nosebleed. I'm not a pervert, Naruto stated, posing in a similar manner as Jiraiya would. I'm a super pervert. If you knew about this in the first place, why make that bet? Luca questioned. Because I needed some inspiration for the next book, Uchiha. Harem Master. Naruto replied. Speaking of which, the blonde Pokemon professor then pulled out a familiar notepad and pencil and begun furiously scribbling down ideas and scenarios. He momentarily paused to look up at Luca. By the way, what are your measurements? Hiya. Luca exclaimed, hitting Naruto upside the head with a giant tuna fish. Off, where'd the tuna come from? Naruto groaned out, steam coming from the spot that the tuna fish had impacted. What's it this time, Luca? Hatsune questioned as she entered the room, only to find Naruto and Luca in a similar situation as before, only this time clothed. Again. Seriously? He asked for my measurements. Luca said, sporting an atomic red blush. It's not every day that one has the honor of meeting the Gamma-senin, you know. Ken stated before deadpanning. And you just knocked him upside the head with a giant tuna fish. Where'd you even get a giant tuna fish? Did you say the Gamma-senin? Hatsune questioned. Then that would mean. Gee, why don't you just tell everyone who I am? Naruto said, sarcasm dripping in his voice. You're the pervert, Hatsune started. Super pervert. Naruto corrected. Super pervert that writes those Uchiha books? Hatsune questioned, reaching behind her back. Naruto cringed and braced himself for the worse. A comicalligent-sized mallet, another giant food item, swords, guns, anything that could cause physical damage, really. What he wasn't expecting her to pull out was a familiar cyan-colored pocket-sized book. Could you sign my Uchiha? Sensual Sciences? Well, of course. Naruto said, pulling a pen out of nowhere and signing Hatsune's copy of Uchiha. Sensual Sciences. Both Luca and Ken looked on slack-jawed, the former because her friend had the guts to do so, and the latter because she got her book signed while his weren't. It warms my heart to know that my former master's works still live on. Former? Hatsune questioned. Deceased. Naruto replied. Oh yeah. I need to make a call before we proceed with research. Research? What do you mean by that? Hatsune questioned, an innocent look on her face. How do you think I get the inspiration for the books? Naruto asked rhetorically, a perverse grin on his face as Luca covered part of her face with her hand. Naruto laughed and wrapped one arm around Luca's waist. You're looking at the next Uchiha model. Luca? The next Uchiha model. Wow, you must have a pretty big set to pull something like that off and get away with it. Hatsune stated. He's a god amongst the gods of men, am I right? Ken said. Damn right you are. Naruto said, Luca letting out an eep. When Naruto groped her ass. Nice and firm, not bad. He stated, only to be hit over the head by a giant tuna fish courtesy of Luca. Is there any chance I could get in on this? I think I can get Rin and Maiko in on this too. Hatsune said, a perverse grin and nosebleed present on her face. That depends. What do you guys want in return? Naruto questioned, knowing that there was most likely an ulterior motive behind her volunteering. Every Uchiha book that you've written, first edition signed. And how good are you as a stripper? Hatsune questioned, getting Luca to sputter and Ken to fall on his back in laughter. I'm Kikis. Naruto grinned, getting a surprised look from Hatsune. I hate to cut our little conversation short, but I've got to make a call to some people that I promised to help. He stated, walking to the exit. Oh, and please, for the love of Kami, don't reveal my secret to the rest of the world. There's an Uchiha holiday edition in it for you if you do. And what makes this one different from the one Luca and I already have? Hatsune questioned, both women pulling out their copies of Uchiha holiday edition. The difference is that this one is the year-round edition. Only 5 copies are in existence. Naruto said, exiting the room before Hatsune, Luca and Ken could comprehend what they had just heard. Year-round holiday edition, Hatsune thought. Both Luca's and her own were winter holidays only, not every holiday. 5 copies in existence, Ken thought. Could it be? Were the rumors true? Must have, all 3 muttered simultaneously. By the time they had broken from the perverse trance, Naruto was long gone. With Red walked through the bustling streets of Nimbasa City, momentarily stopping when he felt 2 familiar auras nearby. So that's where those 2 are. Red mumbled to himself, walking down another alleyway until he heard a familiar pair of voices. Pikachu pie Pika pie. Pikachu yelled. Jiggly jig Jigglypuff. Jigglypuff exclaimed in defense. Pika. Jigglypuff. What are you 2 doing here? Red called out, catching the attention of both Pokemon. Pika pie? Pikachu questioned. Yeah, it's me. It's good to see you too. Red said. Jiggly, Jigglypuff Jiggly. Jigglypuff questioned. Arcia sent me to take care of this Naruto fella, but there's been a change of plans. Red stated. Pikachu? Pikachu asked. Whoever he is, he's gotten the attention of Master Hand. Red replied, getting a look of shock from both Jigglypuff and Pikachu. Jigglypuff Jigglypuff stated. I figured I would find you guys since you were in the area and see if you wanted to help me with testing him. Red said. Pika pie. Pikachu said, nodding his head. Jigglypuff Jiggly. Jigglypuff said, nodding his head as well. Alright then, all that's left to do is to come up with a plan to get him alone, Red said. With Naruto. A sigh escaped Naruto's lips as he finally exited the Beacon Luminu Hotel. I guess I should make that call now. Naruto said to himself, entering the number Kai and Ro gave him. Professor Uzumaki. Y2 called out, catching the blonde professor's attention. Naruto turned around to find Y2 a few yards away. Ah. Y2, was it? It's good to see you. Naruto said, a smile on his face that got a small blush from Y2. What brings you to Nimbasa City? And where is the rest of your little group? Bianca and Hilda went to go check out the theater district, Chirin is checking us into the Pokemon Center, and Hilbert went out to try and find the gym leader. Y2 replied. What are you doing? I was about to call Kai and Ro about helping them out with their little conundrum. Naruto said. Hello? Kai called out through this transceiver. Who is this? Ro questioned. Hi. Ro. It's me Naruto. Naruto said into this transceiver. Hi Uncle Kai. Hi Uncle Ro. Y2 exclaimed. Y2? Is that you? How's it going? Kai asked. Pretty good, I'm at Nimbasa City right now. Y2 replied. We can catch up later, right now we need to talk with Naruto about meeting with our king. Ro stated. Luckily for you, we called our king a few minutes ago. He's in Nimbasa City right now, near the Ferris wheel in the amusement park. Kai added. We told him to look for someone in a white lab coat with blonde hair. Gee, so descriptive. Naruto deadpanned. They've never been the best at describing anything, really. Y2 stated, shrugging her shoulders. But you're going to meet our king. Can I come along? Please? She asked, giving Naruto the dreaded puppy dog eyes. Sure, why not? Naruto replied, shrugging his shoulders and ignoring her puppy dog eyes. Y2 just stared in surprise that the puppy dog eyes were just shrugged off like that as Naruto began walking, turning his head to look at the surprised girl. Come on, then. We don't have all day. Naruto said, motioning for Y2 to follow him, said girl shaking out of her surprised state and running after Naruto. Said Pokemon professor then pulled his white lab coat out of seemingly nowhere and put the lab coat on. Where'd the lab coat come from? Y2 asked as she caught up to Naruto. Yes, Y2, yes I did. Naruto replied. Mombasa amusement park. Amidst the crowds of people, a young woman sighed. She stood at 5'7" with short blonde hair, cup breasts, fair skin, and blue eyes. She wore red, white, and blue headphones with long cords on the sides, a yellow jacket, a black top that exposed her stomach in 2 sections, opaque black tights, and yellow high heels. This woman was Mombasa City's gym leader, Elisa. Currently, the blonde-haired gym leader was taking her lunch break, having finally lost to paparazzi in the midst of the crowd. She just wanted to relax a bit, but the life of being both a gym leader and model wasn't easy. And that's why I was thrown out of Mauville food court. Naruto finished. Wow. I didn't even know that was possible using breadsticks. Y2 said. Yep. Maybe one day I'll teach you how to use breadsticks that way. Naruto said, ruffling Y2's hair. Aren't you the wandering Pokemon professor, Professor Uzumaki? Elisa called out, catching the duo's attention. Aha. Finally some recognition. Okay everybody, take 5. Naruto called out, causing a dozen Kage Bunshins holding smoke pellets and various instruments to grumble before dispelling, along with their items. So who are you and how exactly do you know of my greatness? I'm Elisa, gym leader of Mombasa City and fashion model. Elisa said. And the only reason I know who you are is because of this recent article on the Gama Senin. Oh yes, that's wait, what about the Gama Senin? Who I'm totally not by the way. Naruto lied, chuckling nervously as he did so. Yes you are. It says so in this article. Elisa stated, pulling up an article on her transceiver. What? Let me see. Naruto exclaimed, pulling Elisa's arm so that he could see the article. He only read a small portion of the article before Elisa pulled her arm back, but it was all he needed to read. Son of a bitch. Someone snitched. And it's trending, Elisa added. So you're the guy who writes those books that Uncle Kai and Uncle Ro try to hide from me? Y2 questioned. Why do I even bother trying to hide it anymore? Naruto mumbled, a mini depression cloud appearing over his head. Elisa and Y2 both quickly reached into their pockets, pulling out a copy of Icha Paradise and a copy of Icha Tactics respectively. Would you sign my book? Elisa Y2 asked, only to find Naruto on the ground, curled up in a ball and banging his head on the side of the nearby booth, with an even larger depression cloud over his head, rain and lightning coming from said cloud. Everyone is a pervert, Naruto mumbled, causing Elisa and Y2 to sweat drop. Professor Uzumaki, Y2 called out, gesturing to her copy of Icha Paradise. Oh right. Naruto exclaimed, his attitude pulling a 180 as he pulled out a pen and signed both books. As he went to give back Elisa's copy of Icha Tactics, she pulled out a small white card. My business number for modeling, Elisa started, grabbing the pen from Naruto and writing a second number on the card. And my own number, for personal reasons, she purred, putting the card in Naruto's pants pocket with a sly wink and a perverse grin. I can no longer deny it, kid. You truly are a god amongst all of us males. Kurama stated. Naruto. N called out, causing all three to turn in the direction of N, who was near the Ferris wheel. At seeing N, Y2 froze up. N? What are you doing out here? Naruto asked. King N. Y2 exclaimed. King? Naruto questioned. You mean that this guy is who leads Team Plasma? Wait, you're the blonde lab coat wearing guy that Kai and Ro told me to look out for? N questioned. They've never been that good when it comes to descriptions. Y2 stated, awkwardly chuckling and rubbing the back of her head. That is true, N stated before turning his attention to Naruto. So you're the guy that's gonna help us get storm the castle? Pretty much. I've got nothing better to do at the moment. Naruto replied, shrugging his shoulders. Is that really your reason? N asked. Exactly. Naruto exclaimed cheerfully, causing everyone to sweat drop. Well, then let's end started. Jigglypuff. A meek voice called out, causing all to turn in the direction of the voice. Eh? What Pokemon is that? I've never seen it in the Unova region. Y2 asked, the Jigglypuff in front of the group tilting his head slightly, as if to feign confusion. That's Jigglypuff, the balloon Pokemon. Naruto stated, crouching down to said Pokemon's eye level. But what's one doing out here of all places? Hey, what's it doing now? That spinning thing. Y2 questioned, Jigglypuff spinning in place at an increasing speed. Well, if I'm looking at this correctly, that move is, Naruto replied, only to be slammed by Jigglypuff and sent flying off into the sky. Ooh. The group never heard him finish his statement when he flew far enough away, becoming nothing more than a slight twinkle. What just happened? Elisa asked. I do believe that Professor Uzumaki was just sent flying with one massive acid. Y2 replied, a large sweat drop present. Jiggly jig Jigglypuff. Jigglypuff exclaimed triumphantly, having done his part. Why you little rascal? N exclaimed, berating the Jigglypuff. He was going to help me take back a castle. And I was this close to getting laid, I mean getting out of gym leader and modeling duties. Elisa yelled. Play Jigglypuff's song. Jigglypuff, Jigglypuff. Jigglypuff, Jigglypuff sang, causing Y2, Elisa and N to fall asleep. A tick mark appeared on Jigglypuff's face, but he had to move quick and catch up with the others. So he could only draw at a drunken passed-out partier level, drawing various graffiti on all three quickly before running off. Lostland Forest. Off in the small forest, everything was calm and tranquil. A small, starry light in the sky was seen, despite it being midday. The starry light soon became a humanoid speck that seemed to be getting louder and louder as it got closer and closer to the forest. Oot. Naruto finished, crashing into the ground near a mobile trailer. A mysterious young woman popped her head out of the trailer, seemingly alerted to the crashing sound. Looking to her left, the woman saw the smoldering crater outside of her trailer and a certain blonde Pokemon professor twitching upside down headfirst at the center of said crater. She blinked and stared at the groaning blonde for a few seconds before going back inside the trailer and closing the door. A few minutes passed before the blonde got up and out of the crater he made. DCH, damn Jigglypuff, Naruto muttered, brushing the dust off his shoulders. The blonde professor suddenly froze, feeling two unknown presences enter the area. Pika Pie, Pikachu Pika. Pikachu stated. I agree, surviving an impact like that does show some potential. Red stated, pulling out a Pokeball as he spoke. Naruto reached for his Pokeballs as well, only for Pikachu to charge at him with a quick attack. His eyes widened as he jumped to the right to dodge the Pikachu, unable to reach for his Pokeballs in time. Pie. Pika Pikachu Pika Pie. Pikachu yelled, charging at Naruto once more. Man vs Pokemon. I don't think it would be a fair fight, Naruto stated, cracking his neck as he closed his eyes. A grin began to spread across his face as a familiar orange pigment appeared around his eyes. For you, that is, and with that, Naruto vanished in a blur. Pikachu went on guard, looking around for the blonde-haired professor, Red doing the same. Red then felt it, Naruto's massive pool of energy. Behind you. Red exclaimed, but was too late. Pikachu quickly turned around, only for his eyes to widen as Naruto's fist slammed into his stomach, knocking the wind out of the electric mouse Pokemon. Pikachu's body contorted around the fist for less than a second before being sent flying and crashing through several trees. You're going to have to try harder than that to even stand a chance against me. Naruto said. Come on out, Charizard. Red exclaimed, tossing out one of his Pokeballs. What came out of it was a large draconic, bipedal Pokemon. It was primarily orange with a cream underside from the chest to the tip of its tail, which burned with a sizable flame. Charizard had a long neck, small blue eyes, raised nostrils, and two blunt horns protruding from the back of its rectangular neck. There were two fangs visible in its upper jaw despite it being closed. Two large wings with teal underside sprouted from its back, and a horn-like appendage jutted out from the third joint of each wing. Charizard's arms were short and skinny compared to its robust belly, and each limb had 3 white claws. It had stocky legs and cream-colored soles under its feet. Charizard. Charizard roared, focusing in on Naruto. Now that is more like it. Naruto yelled, rushing at Charizard. Said flame Pokemon's fangs lit aflame as he too charged at his opponent with Fire Fang. Just as the two were about to clash, smoke burst from Naruto, and the blonde Pokemon professor was soon replaced by a wooden log. This alone was enough to catch Charizard off guard for a few seconds, which was all that Naruto needed as he appeared behind the flame Pokemon, an open-handed strike at the ready. Gawazu Tataki, Frog Strike. Naruto exclaimed, slamming his palm into Charizard and sending the Pokemon sailing through the air and out of sight. Naruto turned around to find Red, but the Pokemon World Champion had disappeared. A few seconds later, Arrow appeared flying high above the forest, Red on his back. A mildly injured Charizard flew out of the forest shortly after, Pikachu on his back. What are you waiting for, kid? You and I both know that you have the ability to knock them out of the skies. Kurama stated. It's just they didn't seem like they were attacking me to kill me. I think they were testing me, Naruto mentally stated. Call it a hunch, but I believe that we'll be seeing them again in the near future. Naruto. Y2 called out, breaking the blonde professor out of his pondering. Y2 and Elisa were running towards him, each covering in black marker markings, Naruto barely stifling his laughter. What happened to you? You know, after the whole Jigglypuff thing. Nothing too exciting, really, Naruto replied, shrugging his shoulders. Elisa said nothing, only grabbing Naruto by the scruff of his collar and dragging him away. What are you doing? Naruto asked as he was being dragged. Elisa still didn't say anything, only dragging the blonde professor all the way back into Mombasa City until they were finally inside a penthouse at the top of a building. 4 years. I haven't gotten laid in 4 years. Elisa stated, her eyes glazing over with lust. Pants off. Now. She said, walking into the bedroom of the penthouse with a sway in her hips. Naruto's jaw nearly dropped to the ground before he shook himself out of his stupor, following after Elisa. Whoopee. Naruto exclaimed, tossing out his lab coat. Unknown location. And that's what happened. Red finished, Jigglypuff and Pikachu beside him as he spoke to Master Hand. I see. Master Hand said, an awkward silence permeating the area for a few seconds. If I may. Red started, Master Hand focusing his attention on the young man. I propose we have another one of us come to test him, see how he does against a contender that isn't from this dimension. Jigglypuff. Jigglypuff questioned. That's a good question. Who should we send to face him? Red asked. I've already contacted one of the other participants knowing that something like this would happen. She should arrive shortly. Master Hand stated. I've already arrived. A metallic yet distinctly feminine voice called out. Red, Pikachu and Jigglypuff turned around, eyes widening at who Master Hand had sent. Standing at 6'3" was a giant red, yellow, and orange armored woman with a red helmet that had a green visor. In place of her right arm was a strange alien cannon-like device. Ah yes. Good timing as always, Samus. Master Hand stated, turning his attention back to the trio from the Pokemon dimension. She's already been briefed on what to do, you will provide aid in her search for the potential participant. Understood Jiggly. Red Pikachu Jigglypuff said, nodding their heads. I expect your beepasis of the potential within a week's time. Master Hand said, the dimensional link closing when he finished speaking. So who's this potential Master Hand sent me to test? Samus asked. His name is Naruto Uzumaki, better known to those in this dimension as the Wandering Pokemon Professor. Red replied. What makes him stand out from everyone else in this dimension? Samus questioned, unable to discern what was so special about Naruto Uzumaki. It's because he's not originally from this dimension. Red stated, Samus's eyes widening underneath her helmet. His aura levels, that is, if he even uses aura considering what we saw, are phenomenal. It wasn't hard to find him because of the sheer size of his aura levels, and it won't be that hard to track him down either. Very well then. Samus said. Let the hunt begin. With Red, Samus, Pikachu, and Jigglypuff. Let the hunt begin. Samus said. Pika Pie Pikachu. Pikachu stated. Translation, please. Samus asked, rubbing the back of her head with her hand that wasn't a laser cannon. Pika said that now would not be the most opportune time to do so, and I agree. We need to plan accordingly. Red replied. Alright, we'll come up with a plan. But first, we need to keep track of the target, and Samus started. That's not the best thing to do at the moment, Red interrupted, looking at the ground as if it was the most interesting thing in the world, a blush on his face. I can sense him, and well. Come on, spit it out. Samus said. Ease, you Red said, forming a circle with one hand and moving 2 fingers from his other hand in and out. The others were able to understand the meaning behind the gesture, and even Samus had the decency to blush. Let's track him at a later time. Samus stated. Right Jiggly. Red Pikachu Jigglypuff agreed. With Naruto and Elisa. With Red, Samus, Pikachu, and Jigglypuff. The day had come and gone, the awkwardness that was the knowledge of Naruto getting some having faded as the day became night. Alright, now let the hunt begin. Samus stated, beginning to walk away from the group. Hold on. Red said, causing Samus to stop in her tracks. People here aren't very used to your type of armor. It's best that we don't raise suspicion. Very well. Samus said, understanding what Red was implying. A bright light enveloped the female bounty hunter, her form began to shrink until the bright light was a silhouette of a smaller, more feminine figure. As the light died down, Samus now stood at 5'10" with bright blonde hair held up in a high ponytail, light skin, and bright blue-green eyes. In place of her power suit, Samus was in her Zero suit, which was a light blue skin-tight full-body jumpsuit with a glowing pink symbol on her back, breasts, and hand. Naruto Uzumaki is currently in Mombasa City. How do you plan on confronting him? Red questioned. With this. Samus replied, pulling out a small strange cube. This device has the power to transport both myself and one other into Final Destination. Final Destination Master Hand is allowing you to use his realm. Red questioned, shocked by the newly acquired information. Yep. Master Hand really wants this to go well, so he's allowed me to use his own realm to do this fight. Samus stated, walking away and pulling out her signature pistol, the Paralyzer. Now if you excuse me, I'm not going to wait any longer. The moment Samus was out of sight, Red, Pikachu, and Jigglypuff sighed. As one, they looked left to right before pulling out 3 different Uchiha books, quietly giggling perversely every now and then, with a small trickle of blood coming out their noses. But Naruto and Elisa. Both Naruto and Elisa eventually made their way back to the bed, staring up at the ceiling covered in small amounts of blood, sweat, and in Elisa's case, semen. Mother of Arceus, that was good, Elisa huffed out. I always aim to please. Naruto stated. And please you did. Very well, I might add. Elisa said, tracing circles on his chest. Naruto then formed a familiar shaped hand sign, 2 Kage Bunshins, shadow clones, appearing in a puff of smoke. What is that? Elisa questioned, a look of surprise, shock, and a hint of perversion on her face. Kage Bunshins. You guys know what to do. Naruto said, directing that last part at the clones. Right, boss. The clones exclaimed, walking out of the room shortly after. So wait, you could have done this the whole time, Elisa exclaimed. Yep. Naruto bluntly replied. Then why didn't you do it when we were having sex? Elisa asked. You probably wouldn't have been able to comprehend the sheer awesomeness and power that it grants me. Naruto replied. You didn't want to bust out the gangbang early? Elisa translated. Exactly. Naruto said. But what did you make them do just now? Elisa questioned. Oh, I'm just having them place a few seals around to ensure that no one disturbs us for a bit. Naruto stated. You'd be surprised how many times people just barge in after I have sex to drag me into something that I usually have to end. How many times has that happened? Elisa asked. Altogether after sex? Naruto questioned. After sex? Elisa specified. 16 times. Naruto replied. Last time it happened, Bam capo whoosh was the sound that came from outside the doorway. Told ya. Naruto said. But who was that? Elisa questioned. The hell if I know, but whoever it is just got their ass sent flying out of the top floor. Naruto stated. Isn't that a bit, Elisa said. Extreme? Nah, I'm sure they'll be fine. Naruto said, Elisa snuggling up against him as both fell asleep. But Samus. Samus was all too shocked when she reached the door to the room Naruto Uzumaki was in, only to reach for the doorknob and be sucker punched in the stomach by something, swept off her feet and teleported outside about 35 stories in the air. Son of a Metroid. Samus cursed, her power suit materializing onto her midair. She curled into a ball as she got closer and closer to the ground in an attempt to soften the impact. Spinning at a rapid speed, Samus slammed into the ground and sped off, leaving no sign of impact in the first place. Samus finally made her way out of the city, only to be greeted by the sight of a slightly panicking Red. Samus. Thank Arceus. Red exclaimed. What do you mean? Where did Pikachu and Jigglypuff go? Samus questioned, uncurling from her ball form. That's the thing. I don't know. Red stated. 1 minute we were all here, then the next thing I know, something attacked us. What do you mean something? Samus asked. I don't know. I wasn't able to get a good look at it. It looked like it was made out of darkness itself. Red said. It grabbed Pika and Jigglypuff and dragged them away to Arceus knows where. Pika Jiggly. Was the 2 distinct calls heard nearby. Red and Samus turned around, only to stumble back slightly. Pikachu and Jigglypuff were a few yards away from them, but hey, were different. Both of them had an aura of darkness surrounding them, their eyes a beady yellow. Pika. Jigglypuff. Red called out, only to strafe to the right to dodge a quick attack from the dark Pikachu. Samus was sent flying back courtesy of a pound by Jigglypuff. As both Red and Samus recovered from the attacks, the dark Pikachu and dark Jigglypuff jumped back. A strange green cloaked figure floated down from the skies, a metallic ball attached to the bottom of the figure. The figure said nothing, detaching the ball causing it to drop onto the ground. The metallic ball then opened up, revealing a digital clock that started at 5 minutes and was quickly counting down. A bomb? Samus exclaimed, eyes widening underneath her helmet. We have to get out of here. What about the civilians in the area? We have no clue what kind of bomb this is, nor do we know how far it will spread. Red exclaimed, pulling out a pokeball. Come on out, Arrow. Arrow? Arrow exclaimed. No time. We've got to warn Nimbasa City. Red yelled, both Samus, who had dematerialized her power suit to weigh less, and Red himself hopped on the back of Arrow. The Aerodactyl then took off at inhuman speeds towards the nearby city, with Dark Pikachu and Dark Jigglypuff hot in pursuit. The strange green-cloaked figure did nothing, staring at the group as they ran for a few seconds before floating away. What are those things? Red questioned, looking behind him to find the Dark Pikachu and Dark Jigglypuff behind them. You mean those 2 aren't Pikachu and Jigglypuff? Samus asked. No. Their auras are nothing like Pika and Jigglypuff's, these 2 give off malice and hatred. Red exclaimed, Arrow veering to the right and narrowly dodging a thunderbolt. Pikachu. Dark Pikachu exclaimed, firing off a thunder at Arrow. Keep moving, arrow. Red yelled, Samus having pulled out her paralyzer and began firing at Dark Pikachu and Dark Jigglypuff. But Naruto and Elisa. The thunderous booms could be heard echoing throughout the city, waking both Naruto and Elisa in the process. What was that? Elisa questioned, the sound of another thunder shaking the room. Sounds like lightning. Probably just a storm. Naruto mumbled, rubbing his eyes as he sat up in the bed. Seconds later, arrow shot past the building, Dark Pikachu jumping from building to building firing off thunderbolts at the fossil Pokemon. That's not a storm. Elisa said, eyes widening. Tommy damn it. Naruto muttered, getting out of the bed. Where are you going? Elisa asked, using the bed sheets to cover her modesty. I'm going to see what's going on. Naruto replied as he put his clothes back on before turning to Elisa. Do you have a window nearby anywhere? But Samus and Red. They still behind us? Red asked, focusing his attention on steering arrow around the city and avoiding thunderbolts. Still hot on our tail. Samus exclaimed, firing at Dark Jigglypuff, only for the creature to dodge every shot. A thunderbolt suddenly shot out at Arrow, Samus seeing this in slow motion. Incoming. She yelled, but was too late. Arrow was struck by the thunderbolt, causing him to arch in agony before falling down to the ground. Arrow, return. Red exclaimed, Arrow dematerializing as they got closer to the ground. Both Red and Samus landed on their feet, Dark Pikachu and Dark Jigglypuff landing a few yards away. Red pulled out another Pokeball while Samus materialized her power suit, but neither of them, nor the Dark Pokemon, were prepared for what happened next. Dynamiku Enter Plus, Dynamic Entry. Naruto yelled, performing a jump kick to Dark Jigglypuff, sending the Dark Pokemon crashing into Dark Pikachu. That's payback for earlier. Databeo. Is that Samus asked. That's him. Red replied. Boy. What are you two just standing around for? Naruto called out, catching the attention of Red and Samus. Right. Samus, you stay and help Naruto fight. I'll go and try to evacuate as many people as I can. Red said before running off. You know, Naruto started as Samus walked up to him. I don't know who you people are or how you know who I am, but what I do know is that Pikachu and that Jigglypuff aren't the Pokemon I encountered earlier. They give off too much hate and malice. He stated, a familiar spiraling sphere forming in his hands and his eyes gaining an orange pigment. So when this is over with, you better answer my damn questions, got it? Alright. Samus said, giving a nod of agreement. Good. Naruto said, charging at the two dark Pokemon. Rasengan, spiraling sphere. He exclaimed, slamming the ball of pure chakra into Dark Jigglypuff, sending the creature flying through 5 trees. Naruto quickly took off in pursuit of his opponent, leaving Samus to deal with Dark Pikachu. But Naruto. Dark Jigglypuff stepped out of the rubble he made, shaking off the extra debris before charging at Naruto with Pound. As soon as Dark Jigglypuff got to Naruto, a puff of smoke replaced the blonde professor with a wooden log. The short period of confusion was all that was needed for Naruto to slam Dark Jigglypuff with a Senjutsu Ninja punch. Banjushigami no Jutsu, Wild Lion's main technique. Naruto yelled, his golden blonde hair extending so that it grabbed Dark Jigglypuff midair and slammed him into the ground, leaving a crater in the shape of a Jigglypuff. Dark Jigglypuff just jumped out of the crater, shrugging the attack off as if it did nothing, before charging at Naruto with rollout. Naruto's golden hair tried to strike Dark Jigglypuff, but the creature was too quick for the blonde to attack. Faster than lightning, Dark Jigglypuff slammed into Naruto, sending the blonde flying back. Naruto righted himself in midair, forming a shaped hand sign, as 7 more Narutos appeared in a puff of smoke. Bunshin Kaiten Kakado Itachi, clone spinning axe kick. The Narutos exclaimed. They each charged at Dark Jigglypuff, the clones launching themselves into the air and somersaulting before slamming their heels into Dark Jigglypuff as they came spinning down. All the while, the original Naruto had summoned 2 more Kage Bunshins and began to form a spiraling ball of wind. You ready for this? Naruto called out, launching himself at Dark Jigglypuff. Ton. Rasengan, wind release. Spiraling sphere. He yelled, slamming the wind technique into Dark Jigglypuff, causing the creature to fall apart into strange small glowing violet spheres. The spheres then began to vanish. What the Naruto mumbled in confusion before shaking his head. Now is not the time to question what that was. First, assist that metal lady. He mentally exclaimed, running back in the direction he came from. But Samus. Samus tucked and rolled underneath a thundershock, courtesy of Dark Pikachu, before firing her arm cannon at the creature, 3 of the blasts hitting their intended target. Electricity sparked around Dark Pikachu's cheeks before firing off a thunderbolt at Samus. Seeing the inevitable attack, Samus quickly removed her power suit to escape being fried by 100,000 volts of electricity. She pulled out her paralyzer and was about to fire, but was beat to the strike when Naruto appeared out of nowhere. Pachinko no Jutsu, Pachinko technique. Naruto exclaimed, pulling out a copy of Icha Icha. paradise and throwing it at Dark Pikachu with enough force to send the dark Pokemon flying into a tree and the book bouncing back into his hands. Samus took this opportunity to jump to Dark Pikachu and proceed to fire shots from her paralyzer point blank at the creature. 10 shots later, and the Dark Pikachu then dissolved into the same type of particles as Dark Jigglypuff did. Naruto lunged down and caught one of the particles before it could vanish like the others, clutching it with an iron grip and forming a ball with his hand, only for said particle to react to Naruto. The dark substance quickly assimilated into Naruto's skin. By the time Naruto opened his palm, the particle had vanished, unbeknownst to the fact that the particle had been absorbed by him. "Thanks for the assistance," Samus said, noticing Naruto checking her out. "You're Naruto?" questioned. "The woman," Samus stated, her eyes narrowing. No, not that. I already knew that. It's just well, you were hot," Naruto said. "What were you expecting?" Samus asked, a small blush on her face. "Something more I don't know, scarred and warlike. Something that screams I've seen some shit and I've got something to prove it, you know," Naruto stated, scratching the back of his head and shrugging his shoulders. "Not all of us get scars from our fights," Samus stated. "Whatever you say, babyface," Naruto said dismissively, patting Samus on her right cheek before walking away. "Babyface?" Samus questioned, slightly irritated by the nickname. "Babyface? That's what we used to call those who didn't bear scars yet," lamented Chunon's back in the fourth, Naruto stated, cutting himself off before he could finish his statement. The fourth shinobi war, he mentally finished. It felt like a lifetime ago, but Naruto could still distinctly remember the war. Every battle, every soldier, every life lost. "Naruto? Are you alright?" Samus asked, shaking the blonde professor out of his trance. "You've been staring into nothing for half a minute or so." "Never mind," Naruto said, shaking his head before focusing his attention on Samus. "That brings up the question. Who are you and what do you want with me?" Boom! Before Samus could answer his question, the sound of an explosion caught their attention. Off in the direction of Lostland Forest, a dark void began expanding, taking in all of Route 16 and most of the Marvelous Bridge with it. People all around them began screaming. They were too late. The bomb had gone off. Naruto's mindscape. Drip drip was the repetitive sound that echoed throughout the sewer-like mindscape. Years of being trained by Jiraiya, the self-proclaimed super pervert, did nothing to help get Naruto's mind out of the gutter. Literally. Kurama had his eyes closed, as if he was asleep. His slumber was then suddenly disturbed by a new sound, one unfamiliar even to him. Tick tick beep beep was the pixelated cry-out confusion that resonated far louder and far more obnoxious than the constant dripping sound, in Kurama's opinion. Kurama called out, slightly disturbed by the sight he was seeing. Unknown location. Off on a distant island, far away from any major landmass and untouched by humanity, a certain Pokemon perked up. Though nearly on opposite ends of the world, this creature felt the abyssal explosion in Unova. Blinking, the Pokemon knew that her assistance would be required in this endeavor. No longer could she shrug off her responsibilities as the progenitor of this world. She would have to do what her children could not, yet at the same time have no part in it. The Pokemon's eyes suddenly widened, an ingenious plan formulating in her head. "If I can't directly interfere, then maybe he can," the Pokemon mentally exclaimed, vanishing from the island with teleport, her destination in mind. But Naruto and Samus. Both blondes remained silent in shock, the black hole-like explosion having finally stopped growing when it could be seen as a towering and looming in all directions. "What kind of explosion is that?" Naruto questioned, getting into a defensive stance. "I don't know. In all my travels, I've never seen any explosions like this," Samus stated. Kurama called out from his mindscape. "Now's not a good time, Kurama," Naruto mentally said. Tick beep beep tick was the strange set of noises that came out of his mindscape. "What was that?" Naruto mentally asked. "Bzzz the strange noise exclaimed in slight irritation. "That's what I wanted to talk to you about," Kurama stated. "Alright, fine," Naruto mentally grumbled, the feeling of falling backward and forward quickly passing. Soon enough, Naruto found himself back in his mindscape. "Now what the hell was that sound, Kurama?" Naruto asked, but soon got his answer in the form of a foreign presence in his mind. The creature was a black two-dimensional being with a grey shadowy outline and was barely even half Naruto's own height, standing at 30 exactly. Tick 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 beep was the sounds that the creature emitted, moving around in various gestures as it did so. "What the hell?" Naruto questioned. "Tick bzzz tick bzzz the creature exclaimed. "I don't know how you got in here," Naruto stated. "Bzzz beep tick tick beep tick the creature questioned. "My name's Naruto Uzumaki. Nice to meet ya. You've somehow made your way into my mindscape," Naruto replied before a small frown marred his face. Speaking of which, how did you even get in here? And who are you? You can actually understand what this creature is saying? Kurama questioned. I've been in a world surrounded by creatures that to most people only say their own biological names. This is a piece of cake to understand. Naruto deadpanned. Tick bzzz tick bzzz tick. The creature replied, Naruto raising an eyebrow. Mr. Game and Watch, what kind of name is that? Naruto questioned. Bzzz 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 tick. The creature, now identified as Mr. Game and Watch, retorted. Meh, you've certainly got a point. My name is very foreign in these lands as well. Naruto stated, shrugging his shoulders in response to Mr. Game and Watch's statement. Bzzz tick 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 beat bzzz beat bzzz bzzz beat bzzz beat bzzz tick tick. Mr. Game and Watch exclaimed. So that dark speck thingy, or as you call it shadow bug, is what you're made out of, and somehow one of them was absorbed into me, thus a part of your consciousness had manifested itself in my mind. That totally makes sense. Naruto reiterated. I seriously don't get how you understand what a Kurama started. Naruto corrected. Right, he says. Kurama finished with a sweat drop. Suddenly, another tugging sensation hit Naruto. It appears that sci-fi woman is trying to get your attention. Right. Well, we'll talk more about this later. See you Kurama, Mr. Game and Watch. Naruto said as he faded from his mindscape, Mr. Game and Watch beeping a goodbye. Naruto. Samus called out, waving her hand in front of her fellow blonde's face. Naruto blinked as soon as he exited his mindscape. Huh? Wah? Naruto called out. You've been standing there for a good minute staring into nothing. Samus stated. Oh yeah. Sorry about that, had to have a little chat with a new tenant. Naruto said, Samus blinking in surprise and confusion. Tenant? Samus questioned. Never mind that. Naruto stated before he felt a familiar presence approaching. Naruto. Oria called out, entering the clearing alongside two other men. The first man stood at 5'6", wearing a dark blue shirt underneath a white lab coat, tan shorts, tan sandals, and a brown satchel. He had fair skin, black eyes, and brown hair and a brown beard. The second man stood at 5'7" with gray eyes, light skin, and dark blue curly hair. He wore a blue button-up shirt, black pants, brown shoes, and a white lab coat. Oria? Harold? Augustine? Naruto questioned before smiling and waving. It's good to see you guys. Cut the crap, Naruto. What the hell did you do this time? Augustine asked, causing Naruto to blink. What makes you think I have anything to do with? Naruto questioned, pausing as he didn't know what he was being accused of. That. Augustine yelled, pointing at the abyssal void that stood over what was once Route 16. Oh that. I didn't do anything. Honestly. Naruto said, waving his hands defensively. Oria, Harold, and Augustine just looked to Samus as if to confirm the truth. It's true. Naruto just got brought into a conflict larger than this dimension. Samus stated, getting an ah from all three Pokemon professors and Naruto with a small depression cloud curled up into a ball facing a nearby tree. Speaking of which, who are you exactly? Harold asked. My name is Samus. Samus replied. What is that black hole thing? Harold asked, pointing to said void-like sphere. Beep bzzz tick tick bzzz beep beep. Mr. Game and Watch said from inside Naruto's mindscape. Really? Thanks for the info, Mr. Game and Watch. Naruto mentally exclaimed. Maybe it's got something to do with one of the legendaries. I've heard Rowan talk about a Pokemon that might have the ability to distort the world around it. Augustine suggested. No, the bomb did not originate from this dimension. Samus stated. Then what is it? Oria asked. It's a subspace bomb. Naruto stated, all eyes turning to him. And pray tell, how do you know that? Samus asked. I've gotten a new tenant recently from absorbing one of those dark specks that made up Dark Pikachu and Dark Jigglypuff. Naruto replied. Someone by the name of Mr. Game and Watch told me. At this, Samus's eyes widened. Mr. Game and Watch, Samus exclaimed. You know who he is? Harold asked. Mr. Game and Watch was one of the original brawlers. Samus stated. Brawlers? Naruto asked. Brawlers is what the people who participate in the Smash tournament are called, myself included. Samus replied before pointing towards Naruto. You were being considered for entry before this whole catastrophe started. Me? Naruto questioned, pointing to himself. Yeah. This dimension's overseer, Arceus I believe his name was, seemed really pissed at your presence alone and somehow got in contact with Master Hand. Samus said before frowning. But this isn't like Master Hand to do such things. The bomb, I mean. Something else is going on. And I'm gonna find out what it is. Naruto stated. I agree, something is going on. I'll go on ahead. Samus said, running off towards the subspace void and leaving Naruto, Oria, Harold, and Augustine alone. So let me guess, you're going to go through that subspace thingy and get involved with some bigger scheme and eventually stop said scheme. Harold deadpanned. Was it really that obvious? Naruto asked, rubbing the back of his head sheepishly. Seriously Naruto? It wasn't that hard to figure out, given your personality. Remember that time we visited Mauville City? Augustine questioned. You promised you would never bring that up. We all took a vow of secrecy about what happened that day, Naruto stated, all 4 professors shuddering at the thought of that day. And besides, this is far different from that. But you're still going to do what you do. Oria said, crossing her arms under her ample buxom, further accentuating her fun bags. You know I can't sit idly by when I know that there's something I can do to help. Naruto said, a gentle smile on his face. Harold and Augustine shrugged their shoulders before walking away to go and help the relief effort. A few seconds later, Oria's shoulders slacked slightly as she let out a sigh. I want to be mad at you right now, but I can't bring myself to be. Oria stated, walking over to Naruto and grabbing him by his collar so that he was pulled down to her level. What happened next left Naruto surprised. Oria pulled Naruto into a searing kiss. About damn time. Is that tongue I see? Kurama teased. Bzzz beep beep tick tick bzzz Mr. Game and Watch stated, adding in his own teasing towards the blonde. You better come back alive and in one piece, damn it. And when you do, there'll be a hero's reward, Oria said after breaking the kiss, whispering the last part into Naruto's ear so that only he could hear. When she finished her statement, Oria walked away, swaying her hips as Naruto looked on, mouth agape and blood rushing to both heads. Naruto stood there silently for a few minutes. Beep bzzz beep bzzz tick 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 Mr. Game and Watch exclaimed, shaking Naruto out of his stupor. You're right, Mr. Game and Watch. I've got to go and stop the subspace thing. Naruto mentally exclaimed. In the name of all that is male. Defeat this enemy. For the glory of the horny. Kurama cheered. Naruto didn't respond to this exclamation, only walking forward towards the subspace void. His walking turned into running, then into sprinting, and then into shinobi speeds. Bring it on. They aren't going to be prepared for the maelstrom that is Naruto Uzumaki. Dadabeo. Naruto exclaimed, jumping up into the air above the trees until he landed on the ground. When Naruto finally reached the outer edges of the subspace void, he was greeted to the sight of Red and Samus waiting for him. About time you arrived. I was beginning to worry that you wouldn't show. Samus said. The black cat crossed my path, so I had to take the long way around. Naruto stated, grinning as he used one of Kakashi's excuses. Okay. Well, none of us are entirely sure what we'll find on the other side of this thing, so be prepared for anything. Red stated, pulling out a strange-looking device. Pressing a few buttons, Red's Pokeballs began to light up and 5 of them were replaced by 5 new Pokeballs, 4 regular Pokeballs and 1 Master Ball. The portable PC? Naruto questioned. Being the world champion comes with its perks. Red said, tossing out 2 of the Pokeballs and the Master Ball. When the light died down, 3 new Pokemon stood in their place. The first Pokemon was a bipedal canine-like Pokemon with fur that was predominantly blue and black. It possessed a short round spike on the back of each forepaw in addition to a third on its chest. It had a long snout and ears and possessed cream-colored fur on its torso and blue fur on its thighs that resembled shorts. It had a medium-length tail of the same blue color as well and stood on its toes rather than on its entire foot. It had developed 4 small black appendages on its head which gently rose and fell reflexively. The second Pokemon was a large bipedal frog-like Pokemon. Its body and legs were dark blue, with single large white bubbles on its legs and arms and white spots over its eyes. On the sides of each of its upper thighs was a light blue 4-sided star. Its back feet had 2 toes, while its front feet had 3 toes. Its feet were webbed, and it had a yellow chest and a yellow and blue face. It had eyes with white sclera, red irises, and white pupils. A large projecting dark blue stripe ran down the middle of its head, with projecting light blue stripes in between its large yellow ears. Its mouth was hidden behind a large pink tongue that wrapped around the Pokemon's neck and extended outward behind its head. And lastly, the third Pokemon was a bipedal humanoid creature with some feline features. It was primarily gray with a long purple tail. On top of its head were 2 short blunt horns, and it had purple eyes. A tube extended from the back of its skull to the top of its spine, bypassing its neck. It had a defined chest and shoulders, which resembled a breastplate. The 3 digits on each hand and foot had spherical tips. And its tail was thick at the base, but thin before ending in a small bulb. Oh? A Lucario, a Greninja, and Mewtwo? Naruto questioned. Quite interesting. All 3 have proven themselves worthy of taking part in the Smash tournament, both in the past and present. Red stated. What's going on? Is it time for the Smash tournament already? Mewtwo telepathically asked. No, something's come up and we need your help with stopping this unknown threat. Samus replied. This must be something big to have to bring me into it. Muto telepathically stated. Turn around, bro. Naruto said. I don't see the point. Why ask me to turn around? Oh, Muto telepathically said, finally taking note of the giant subspace void behind him. Yep. Naruto said, both Muto and himself craning their heads to look at the top of the spherical distortion. There's no point in delaying it, I suppose. Is everyone ready? Samus asked, getting nods in affirmation from everyone. Right. See you on the other side. She said, walking into the void. Red followed shortly after, then Lucario, then Greninja, and then Muto, leaving Naruto alone. You ready for this, kid? Kurama asked. I'm always ready. Naruto mentally exclaimed, a small grin on his face as he calmly and cautiously jumped headfirst into the void. Whilst jumping into the void, unbeknownst to him, a purple-pink light attached itself to his back midair. Li'erui was all that was heard throughout the forest as Naruto exited the dimension. Unknown location. Somewhere off high in the skies of another realm, amidst the shadowy halls of a building, was a holographic table projecting a live fight between a strange, short Italian man wearing red and a pink bowl of destruction. A young Puto angel that stood at 5'4" with brown hair, light skin, large blue eyes, and small white wings wearing a white tunic decorated with red and gold hems on the bottom. It was fastened on the shoulder by a single gold pin with a ruby-like gem embedded on it. He wore the outfit with a brown belt that had silver lining the edges and a gold triangular buckle on his waist. He also appeared to be wearing navy blue tights beneath his tunic and had a pair of bronze and gold cuffs on his wrists, a gold bracelet on his upper left arm, and another gold ring on his right thigh. And lastly, he wore brown sandals that were decorated with crossing beige bands, with the top edges of his shoes having what appeared to be white fur. His eyes widened when the fight he was watching took a drastic turn of events, the arena itself being engulfed in a subspace bomb. A glowing light quickly alerted him to the arrival of a familiar presence, causing the angel to turn away from the table to see who it was. When the light died down, a young woman standing at 5'8" with very long green hair that reached down to her lower legs, light skin, G-cup breasts, and vibrant green eyes. She had an overall very elegant and regal appearance, her main outfit consisting of a relatively simple-looking white dress with numerous gold ornaments to accommodate it, showing off her left thigh. She also wore a gold laurel crown, red fibula, vine-like patterns on the hems of her dress, brown-colored footwear, and other various gold accessories. Lady Palutena. The angel exclaimed, kneeling before the goddess of light, Palutena. I believe you already know of what has happened with the fight between Mario and Kirby. Palutena stated. What was that explosion? The angel asked, a small frown appearing on Palutena's face. I know not, which is concerning considering what just happened. Palutena replied. Which is why I am tasking you with investigating what is going on. She said, extending her right hand outward so that a ball of light appeared, transforming into a double-sided sword. The angel grabbed the weapon, two halos appearing around his left forearm. Go forth, Pit. Make luck and may haste smile upon you. Palutena exclaimed, unintentionally messing up the phrase. Right. The angel, now identified as Pit, exclaimed running off and jumping out of the building. Palutena merely observed this before tensing up, an unknown presence appearing out of nowhere. Show yourself. Be you the friend or the foe? Palutena called out, a gold staff with a blue handle and a mirror shield appearing in her hands. Ki-in-ki-in-s. Naruto finished, materializing midair and slamming into the ground, a spiderweb crater forming from the impact of his head and the ground. Palutena saw this and could only sweat drop at the blonde's antics. Ooh, Naruto whined, pulling himself out of the crater he made as he rubbed his head. You the friend or the foe? Palutena asked, causing Naruto to turn his attention to the goddess. Holy boobs, look at the size of them. Naruto mentally exclaimed. She must be a goddess. No mortal can get a rack like that without some type of divine intervention. Kurama stated. Beep tick bzzz Mr. Game and Watch agreed. Up here are my eyes. Palutena said, noticing the blonde professor's eyes glued to her impressive buxom, a small blush apparent on her face. Her blush deepened slightly when Naruto slowly pulled out a notepad and pencil and began scribbling furiously onto the paper. After half a minute, Palutena finally got fed up and whacked Naruto upside his head with her staff, causing him to comically slam into the floor. Who? What? Where? Naruto called out, breaking out of his perverted trance. A light blue glow quickly covered Naruto, Palutena raising her hand up so that Naruto was levitating. Who the heck are you? Naruto asked. I am the ruler of Angel Land, Palutena, the goddess of light. Palutena exclaimed, throwing her hands outward as she struck a pose that made her look more divine. Nice to meet ya. Name's Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto said, unfazed by the fact that the woman in front of him was of divine nature. He extended his hand to Palutena, who was surprised by the reaction of the blonde before her, specifically the lack of reaction that she was looking for. Doth thou wisheth to feel a cop? Does it not seem quite forthcoming in intention to get the sum? Palutena questioned, causing Naruto to face a fault. No. If you're offering I'm game, but I was waiting for a handshake actually. Naruto replied. Oh. Pardon my negligence, I have problems with the integration of common phrases into my interactions. Palutena apologized. No problem. I used to know someone who had a similar problem. Naruto stated, reminiscing on a certain ex-root operative that was also his former teammate. I must query though as to how you entered this land. Palutena asked. I think I got teleported at random by that subspace void I jumped into. Naruto replied. Subspace? Palutena questioned. That void-like explosion. Naruto explained, getting an awe of understanding from Palutena. I still don't understand what happened to Samus, Red, and the others. I think I can explain that. A feminine voice called out. But Samus. After walking through the subspace void, Samus was basically screwed over, her power suit stripped of her and sent to parts unknown. When she finally exited the subspace void, she found herself stuck inside a ventilation shaft. Quickly finding the nearest air vent, Samus kicked the bars loose and dropped down into the room below. As she dropped down into the room, a familiar face was there waiting for her. Greninja. Greninja grunted, his arms crossed as he stared at Samus. What are you doing here? Samus whispered. Greninja. Greninja said, shrugging his shoulders. You do realize that I can't really understand you, right? Samus questioned. Greninja said, face-palming as he did so. With a sigh, Greninja motioned his head towards the door, using his hands to act out stealthily moving around. Greninja. He said, walking out the door with Samus following shortly behind him. With Lucario and Mewtwo. When the two Pokemon exited the subspace void, they found themselves on top of an icy mountain. Well, know what? Mewtwo telepathically questioned. No, meditate. Lucario telepathically replied, sitting down and meditating, Mewtwo doing the same. With Naruto and Palutena. The voice had called out from behind Palutena, causing said goddess to jump back in surprise into Naruto's arms. Beep. Palutena exclaimed in surprise. Wahahahaha. The voice laughed. The look on your face is priceless. A small figure floated out of the shadows, revealing a pink bipedal Pokemon with mammalian features. Its snout was short and wide, and it had triangular ears and large blue eyes. It had short arms with three-fingered paws, large hind legs and feet with oval marking on the soles, and a long, thin tail ending up in an ovoid tip, and its fur was fine and thin. A new species Pokemon, Mew? Naruto questioned, tilting his head slightly in confusion as Palutena levitated out of his arms. Pokemon? Ah, now it makes sense. Thou art from that dimension. Palutena said. Actually, I'm not from that dimension. I just so happened to have been sent there a few years back. Naruto corrected. Little Arceus was so pissed when someone with an energy level larger than his entered our dimension. Mew giggled. So you're not pissed off at me like all the other legendaries? Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow. VSSH, nah. It was really fun seeing a wild factor thrown in. Mew stated, flying in a circle as she spoke. Well, you said that you could explain why Red, Samus and the others aren't with me. Naruto said. Oh right. Well, the subspace void, from what I glimpsed at, is like a random teleporter. Always sending people and things where they are needed. Mew stated. Before anything else could be said, Naruto's sixth sense kicked in. He grabbed Mew by her tail and Palutena by her dress and pulled both down to the floor. What are you? Palutena started. Boom was the resonating sound as the nearby wall was blown to pieces. Hundreds of miles away, a strange flying ship armed with weapons fired upon the building, causing the roof to collapse in upon itself. Hold on tight. Naruto exclaimed, Mew grabbing hold of his back while Palutena was held bridal style in Naruto's arms. Shunshin no jutsu, body flicker technique. He yelled, vanishing in a whirlwind of leaves. Just in time too, as a piece of the falling ceiling slammed into the spot the trio once stood. Naruto, Palutena and Mew rematerialized on a solid cloud a mile or so away from the now destroyed building, both Mew and Palutena gripping onto Naruto tightly. Phew, that was close. Naruto said, the ship that attempted to kill them a few moments ago soaring above them, dropping shadow bugs down in its flight. The shadow bugs then condensed together, forming into thousands upon thousands off. What are those things? Naruto asked. Beep tick beep beep bzzz tick tick Mr. Game and Watch replied. Primids. What kind of name is that? Naruto questioned aloud, causing Mew and Palutena to turn their attention to said blonde professor. Doth thou the doctor needeth? Palutena asked. Oh. Right, sorry. Forgot that he only speaks inside my head. Naruto replied, placing Palutena on her feet and Mew detaching herself from Naruto's back. Who do you mean? Palutena questioned, only for her attention to be directed to the pyramids that were rapidly approaching. Never mind that, I'll tell you after we eliminate these things. Naruto said dismissively, forming a shaped hand sign. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, shadow clone technique. He exclaimed, two shadow clones appearing in a puff of smoke. Oh? Is this something like double team? Mew questioned. Palutena. Your boobs are spectacular. One of the shadow clones exclaimed, causing the original Naruto to face a fault. Palutena muttered, sporting a large red blush as she held her left cheek with her left hand. Sorry about that. It doesn't happen often, but it's still possible for one or two of my clones can take on the extremes of my personality. Naruto stated. Right, let's. Palutena started, only to stop in her tracks as the blonde professor once again proved he has balls of steel when he sneaked up behind Palutena and grabbed her divine breasts, her blush reaching an atomic red color. Honk honk. Naruto said, squeezing Palutena's breasts twice before she hit him over the head with her staff. TFFF. Ha 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 ha. You're one crazy motherfinker. Mew exclaimed, unable to hold back her laughter. Worth it, Naruto mumbled out, a chibi version of his soul leaving his body. Oh no you don't. The second clone said, grabbing the chibi soul of Naruto and shoving it down the original Naruto's throat. I'm back, baby. Naruto said, standing back up as if nothing had happened with a cigar in his mouth, causing both Palutena and Mew to sweat drop. Enough of the around joking. The enemy approacheth. Palutena exclaimed dramatically, motioning her staff to the pyramids that were slowly surrounding them. Mew's eyes began to glow, Palutena twirled her staff before getting into a defensive stance, and Naruto and his two clones got into a fighting stance. Let's get wild. Naruto exclaimed, jumping out into the fray of pyramids. With Naruto, Mew, and Palutena. Naruto charged forward into the fray of pyramids, followed by his clones, then Mew, and finally Palutena. The original Naruto landed atop a pyramid, immediately causing said creature to dematerialize into shadow bugs. Naruto's clones landed behind him shortly after. I've got the shape transformation. The first clone exclaimed. I've got the nature transformation. The second clone exclaimed. While this was going down, the original Naruto began providing the necessary chakra for the technique. You ready for this? The original Naruto exclaimed, the combined effort of the three Narutos forming a giant shuriken made of wind. Pton. Rasen shuriken, wind release. Spiraling sphere. He yelled, throwing the spiraling sphere into the mob of pyramids, eventually exploding and taking out a third of the army. Mew and Palutena just watched, mouths agape at the blonde Anemone army. Such power is he even mortal? Palutena thought. Damn. No wonder little Arceus is scared of him. Mew thought. You guys just gonna stand there or are we gonna kick some ass? Naruto called out, shaking Mew and Palutena out of their stupor. Mew was the first to charge into the crowd, weaving in and out of the pyramids until she was surrounded by them. Arc pulse. Mew telepathically exclaimed, a shockwave of darkness knocking back every pyramid within a 15-yard radius. Explosive flame. Palutena exclaimed, summoning a spherical explosion a dozen yards in front of her that expanded and engulfed the nearby pyramids. The trio of fighters, Naruto's clones having quickly dispelled themselves after their task was completed, jumped back so that they were back to back. Naruto then slacked, allowing his guard to drop, setting Mew and Palutena on edge. Eyes, Naruto said. These things are really slow. It was then that Mew and Palutena took notice of the pyramid's actual movements, only to sweat drop when they discovered their blonde professor companion was right. The few pyramids left surrounding them were moving at an incredibly slow pace. This in turn caused Mew and Palutena to drop their guards. I guess they are. Mew telepathically stated. What doth that mean for us? Palutena questioned. The group became silent, the sound of the pyramids shuffling being the only thing that could be heard. Anyone up for a game of poker? Naruto suddenly asked, pulling out a deck of cards and sitting down. Yeah, sure. Palutena said, sitting down as well. I'm game. Mew telepathically said, levitating a few inches from the ground. Alright. Now remember, bets have to be made before you get dealt your hand. Naruto stated. Do you take hearts? Do you take berries? Do you take picketlers? Paluentum you Naruto asked, causing confusion amongst the trio as they looked at each other. Strip poker? Naruto suggested. She doesn't have anything to strip. Palutena said, jabbing a thumb towards Mew, said Pokemon just shrugged her shoulders before closing her eyes, a bright light engulfing her. Mew's form began to grow until it took a humanoid form. When the light died down, Mew was now a young woman standing at 5'7" with bright blue eyes, fair skin, high cup breasts, and long pink hair that went down to her butt. She now wore a schoolgirl uniform, which consisted of a white long-sleeved button-down shirt with a black ribbon on her shirt collar, worn under a black shoulder cape and matching button-down corset, a magenta skirt with white accents, with her skirt being so short that her black lingerie panties could be seen, and brown dress shoes over white crueling socks. "Is this better?" Mew asked, no longer using her telepathy to talk. Palutena blinked in surprise while Naruto was shot into the ground by a nosebleed. "Told you, Kit," Kurama said, throwing out his arms inside the seal. "Divine tits. How come you're speaking now when you didn't in your Pokemon form? And how can you change out of your Pokemon form?" Naruto asked, sitting back up as if nothing had happened, the only sign of that being Naruto wiping away stray blood from his nose. "I'm the progenitor of all creatures in the Pokemon dimension. It's only logical that I can change into any species. As for my telepathy, I can still do that," Mew stated, using telepathy at the end to further prove her point. "So, we gonna get this strip poker game going or what?" Before any of them could reply, a primate was sent flying above them. Turning to the direction the primate was sent flying, only to be surprised by what they found. Standing a few dozen yards away was a young woman standing at 5'9" with dark gray-black hair held in a ponytail, D-cup breasts, white skin, and eyes that held no pupils with white sclera. She wore black yoga pants that had showed off her curves and a light blue sleeveless midriff shirt. "Let's get fired up. 1, 2, 3. The woman exclaimed, sending a primate flying with a sideways lunge. "Oh? Who's this?" Naruto asked. "She reminds me of that YE Fit trainer from that game back in our dimension. What was it called again?" Mew questioned. "I think it was called YE Fit. Or something like that," Naruto said hesitantly, seeing the woman, now dubbed the YE Fit trainer, send 6 more primates flying back with a bridge and a warrior. "I think she is the YE Fit trainer," Mew stated. "Makes about as much sense as everything else that's happened in the past 24 hours. Naruto stated, shrugging his shoulders with indifference as the last primate was destroyed. "Now that's what I call a workout," the YE Fit trainer said. "Geez, that's a final one-liner if I've ever heard one," Naruto said, catching said woman's attention as she finally took note of the pink-haired woman, the green-haired woman, and the blonde man sitting a dozen yards away. "Hey lady. We're just about to start a poker game, want me to deal you in?" Naruto called out, waving the deck of cards as he spoke. "Yeah sure, why not?" The YE Fit trainer replied, sauntering over to the trio and sitting down across from Naruto, said blonde professor dealing out each person's cards. "Name's Naruto Uzumaki," Naruto said, extending his hand out to the YE Fit trainer, said woman shaking in response. "I'm the YE Fit trainer, though you can just call me YE. YE said. "I'm Mew exclaimed cheerfully. "And I am the ruler of Angel Land," the goddess of Palutena started. "That's Palutena," Naruto interrupted, shuffling his cards around and ignoring the tick mark that appeared on Palutena's face. "Alright, what you got?" Mew exclaimed, revealing her hand to be consisting of an ace of diamonds, a queen of diamonds, a 9 of diamonds, a 5 of diamonds, and a 2 of diamonds. "Flush." "As if." Y retorted, revealing her hand to be a 7 of diamonds, a 7 of hearts, a 7 of spades, a 4 of spades, and a 4 of hearts. "Full house. Weep 'em and re-app 'em," Palutena said, showing that she had all 4 sixes and an ace of hearts. "4 of a kind. Ladies, please," Naruto said, revealing he had an ace of spades, a king of spades, a queen of spades, a jack of spades, and a 10 of spades. "Straight flush." "Ugh." Mew groaned out. "Damn it," Palutena said. A light blush brushed across both Mew and Palutena's face as they realized what they would have to do. "Accessories don't count, mind you," Naruto stated. "Wait, what?" Y questioned, a deep red blush on her white face as Mew and Palutena stripped off their corset and dress respectively, leaving the latter in nothing more than her skirt, thigh-high socks, and a form-fitting white shoulderless shirt. "Oh yeah. We forgot to tell her that we were playing strip poker," Mew stated. "You can drop out if you want," Naruto said. No, it's fine," Y said, her blush deepening as she took off her top, revealing her light gray sports bra. "Oh. What happens when we run out of clothing?" Mew asked. "I don't know. IOUs? Sexual favors? Who knows?" Naruto stated casually, shrugging his shoulders with indifference as all 3 women sported a slightly deepened blush. "Alright, time to deal new hands." Unknown location. Off in a distant castle, an anthropomorphic blue penguin-like being wearing a red robe and carrying a massive wooden mallet paced around. "Indebted," a voice called out, catching the creature's attention. "Yes. What is it?" King Deaded asked as a small spherical brown creature with fingerless flaps for arms and 2 yellow to orange feet ran towards him. "Your Majesty. The scientists think they've hit a breakthrough," the creature exclaimed, causing King Deaded to go wittied. "Really? That's great news," King Deaded said. How many were they able to produce? Only 3, unfortunately. The creature said, pulling out 3 golden buttons in the shape of King Deddede's face. King Dedede grimaced for a second before his expression turned neutral. That is unfortunate. And you're certain that these 3 will work? King Dedede questioned. According to the scientists, each one has a set amount of time before their effects activate. And even then, there's only 18% chance they'll actually work. The creature stated. Very well. Can they produce any more? King Dedede asked. But the amount of time we have, no. The creature replied. And King Dedede mumbled. Tell the scientists that they've done an excellent job. Give them the next 2 weeks and this one off. Your Majesty. Are you certain that this is a wise choice of? The creature asked. I'm certain they've more than earned it. We must move on to phase 2 immediately. King Dedede stated, adjusting his mallet on his back and shooting his free hand outward in a dramatic manner. Assemble the Waddle Dee army. Your Majesty. You already assembled the Waddle Dee army a few hours ago, the creature commented. Oh right. King Dedede said, causing the creature to sweat drop before King Dedede went through the same dramatic actions as a few seconds ago. Then let us make haste. Time is of the essence. Yes, Your Majesty. The creature exclaimed, running off to alert the rest of the Waddle Dee army. The moment the creature was out of sight, King Dedede let out a sigh before grimacing. Hopefully this will work, otherwise all hope will be lost, King Dedede thought before walking off after the creature, a look of determination in his eyes. But Naruto, Mew, Palutena, and Yae. Flush. Palutena cried out desperately, her only article of clothing left on being her white lacy panties. Mew and Yae were in no better condition, the former wearing nothing more than her skirt and her white crueling socks, and the latter wearing nothing at all, having lost all her clothes and moved on to IOUs and sexual favors. Naruto, on the other hand, had a pile of clothing beside him, the only articles of clothing that he had lost being his lab jacket and his shirt, though those around him didn't mind. Full house. Naruto said calmly, showing his hand to be 3 8s and 2 7s. At this, Mew yelled in frustration, throwing her cards down onto the solid cloud. Bullshit. Mew exclaimed as she took off her skirt, Palutena doing the same, only with her panties and a prominent atomic red blush on her face. IOU? Yae asked. Sexual favor. Naruto grinned when he saw Yae's blush deepen. Remind me again why we aren't using any money to bet with? Yae asked. We couldn't decide on a currency, so we just went with clothing, IOUs, and sexual favors. Naruto replied. Without cheating? Palutena questioned accusingly. I've got nothing up my sleeves. Literally, because I don't have any sleeves. Naruto replied. Plus, I've always been extremely lucky. I just pray that no one ever see this. Palutena said. That brings up a question of mine. Who does a goddess pray to exactly? Naruto questioned. You know, that's actually a really good question. Mew stated. Be. A childish feminine voice exclaimed. Up high in the sky was an 8-year-old girl wearing a shin-length dress colored in purple, red and pink, and decorated with numerous vines. She had long blonde hair held up in a ponytail using vines, light skin, and light brown eyes. Who the heck's the brat? Mew asked. Oh no, Palutena groaned. Off all the people that had to show up, it had to be her. Oh no. What do you mean by oh no? Oh no in a good way, or oh no in a bad way? Naruto asked. There's no need to fear. Underdog is here. The girl exclaimed with laughter. I don't get it. Yae said. Look out Beluu, the girl exclaimed, seemingly targeting for her landing to be on Naruto, said blonde, scooting away just in time for her to shoot through the solid clouds and down to the earth below. Usually. The girl yelled as she fell. I get that a lot. Naruto yelled back, getting a sweat drop from all 3 women. You just pissed off Verity, goddess of nature. Palutena stated. Ah. Goddess of nature my ass. She looks more than Naruto started. Goddess of awesome. I know right. The girl, now identified as Verity, said, seemingly popping up out of nowhere from behind Naruto. Yae was the only one to jump back in surprise. As if. Everybody knows I'm the only being here that radiates pure ausonium. Naruto exclaimed. Ausonium? Palutena questioned. The radioactive material that, when exposed to, amplifies one's own awesomeness factor tenfold. Naruto Verity stated at the same time, causing both to turn to each other and grin. I do believe you know what must happen next. Naruto questioned, his grin still present on his face. But of course. Verity said, both blondes pulling out a camera from seemingly nowhere. Say cheese. Naruto Verity exclaimed, taking photos of the still surprised Mew, Palutena, and Yae. How'd yours turn out? Naruto asked, leaning over Verity's shoulder to see her pictures. Pretty good. Ooh, but yours have a more crisp contrast. Verity stated. Yeah, but yours was from a better angle. Naruto said. What just happened? Mew asked. Oh, that simple. We just got blackmail material on all three of you. Verity replied, waving a photo in front of the three women. A blue light quickly enveloped the two pictures, floating over to Mew and disintegrating into dust. There. No evidence. Mew stated. Whatever. I still have the negatives. Naruto said, shrugging his shoulders before pulling out a familiar notepad and pencil. What art thou doing? Palutena asked, slightly unnerved from the steam coming out Naruto's ears, the blood coming out his nose, and the smoke coming off the paper that the blonde was abusing. Yesies. That's how Icha. Harem masters shall end. Mwahahaha Naruto muttered, causing Palutena, Mew, and Yae to sweat drop. Icha. Yae questioned. I'm finally part of an Icha book. Mew exclaimed with a slight fangirlish squeal. What's Icha? Verity asked. Only the greatest pieces of literary art that has ever graced this existence. Mew stated, pulling out a copy of Icha. Paradise. It's smut. Naruto replied, getting a gasp of shock from Mew. How dare you call Icha smut? Mew yelled in outrage. I dare because I am the writer of Icha. Naruto stated. But Mew muttered, unable to comprehend the statement from the blonde writer of the Icha series. I never said that it wasn't a literary masterpiece. I just said that it is smut. Naruto said. You wouldn't happen to have a copy on ya, would you? Verity asked. Naruto didn't even bother looking up from his writing, yet he was somehow able to pull out 4 copies of Icha. Paradise. First edition. These 3 are among some of the very few original copies when the Icha series was first published. Naruto stated, Palutena, Mew, Yae, and Verity each taking a copy. I don't get what the big deal is, Verity said, her conversation sidetracking as she read more and more of the words printed on the book, blood dripping from her small nose. Yae mumbled, a bright red blush present. Her face had become so red, she resembled a tomato. Kushina. What was that? Me. Oh Kami, not again. How did you even find me? Kushina. Chai. Me, sent flying from a massive punch me. Not again. Oh my, Palutena muttered, her right hand covering her mouth as her face became even more red. She wouldn't admit it to herself, but she found some of the things in this book to be arousing. Mew mumbled, giggling to herself as she read Icha. Paradise, blood practically shooting out of her nose. By the way, can you give us our clothes back now? Yae asked. I don't know, Naruto said, stressing the last word in a less than subtle hint. Fine, I get it. I owe user sexual favors. Why do I even bother asking? Yae asked, muttering that last part to herself. Both. Naruto stated, eliciting a sigh from Yae, a silent blush from Palutena, a perverted giggle from Mew, and full-blown laughter from Verity. Unknown location. Far away from the blonde hero and his female companions, a small quiet once peaceful village was thrust into the foothold of chaos. Various animal-like townsfolk ran around screaming in terror as Primids shuffled around in the town. One of the Primids eventually cornered a strange raccoon-like townsman, said raccoon backing into the house wall he was cornered to in fear. The Primid seemed as if it was about to grab the raccoon, but quickly burst into shadow bugs when a bowling ball was dropped onto its head. Jumping down from the roof of the one-room house was a short man, standing at around 3'0", with short brown hair, a triangle nose, light skin, and black eyes, me. Which, by the way, do not look deranged at all. The peers over shoulder to find villager spying on me, totally not deranged at all. After, becomes more nervous. He wore a red shirt with the number 1 on the front, black shorts, green socks, and blue shoes. Oh. Thank goodness you arrived. The raccoon exclaimed. The man in front of him was his most recently hired employee, a man whose past he didn't ask about. Most people just called him the villager, though. The villager said nothing, only smiled and turned around to find 3 Primids behind him. He was about to assault the 3 creatures, but was beaten to it by a pillow, a bowling pin, and a bowling ball that sent the 3 Primids crashing into the ground and dissipating into shadow bugs. Hey? This isn't Booby Lady's shop. Where am I, Naya? A feminine, yet mischievous voice called out. Standing a few yards away was a strange catgirl standing at 5'5" with brown skin and long blonde hair tied up into 2 braids and a black cattail with a faded white tip. She wore a bejeweled hoodie with a cat hood and long cat-themed sleeves that covered her arms. She also wore a pair of unusual iridescent high-heel boots with the same cat theme. Her hood was up, though a pair of red beady eyes and a seemingly ever-constant toothy grin was visible. You're in Smashville. Can't you read the signs? The raccoon questioned, motioning to the Welcome to Smashville sign that stood in the center of the town. Hey. What are you exactly? The catgirl asked, quickly forgetting her current conversation when she saw the villager. The name's Tom Nook, I run the town's shop. And this is the villager. The raccoon, now identified as Tom Nook, stated, motioning to both himself and the villager. Why is he called the villager, Naya? The Cadril asked, only to receive an odd look from the villager. His eyes held a certain gleam to them, but if one were to look directly into these black orbs, it would be as if they were staring into the pits of hell itself, watching every single dark deed the villager had done. But the Cadril didn't seem to notice this, rather, she was more focused on the butterfly that was fluttering on by, which in turn caused Tom and the villager to sweat drop, though the villager's expression remained the same. Who are you? Tom asked. Naya. Tao is Takaka, nah. Who else would Tao be? The Cadril, now identified as Takaka, stated before reaching into her jacket and pulling out a piece of paper with a picture of a silver-haired man with a strange esmal on his face and $60 billion underneath said picture. Can any of you tell Tao where Rognya is? Tao is looking for him. Takaka asked. Nope, can't say I've ever seen his face in these parts. Tom replied. Ooh, guess Tao came all the way out here for nothing. Takaka said, dropping down onto the ground with crossed arms and a pout. A very audible scream pierced through the air, reminding the villager and Tom of the town's current predicament. If it would not be much trouble, could you possibly help us defend out town from these things? Tom asked. Tao doesn't know, Takaka said. What do you want out of this? Money? Land? Tom asked, getting Takaka to shake her head no. Catnip. A year's supply of it. Tao wants a year's supply of catnip. Takaka replied, getting a sweat drop from the villager. Okay. You've got yourself a deal. Tom exclaimed. Yay. Takaka yelled, charging at the nearby pyramids and sending 3 flying with a low paw attack. Unbeknownst to the Catgirl, when she swooped in for the strike, her ass was sticking up in the air and revealing her red panties. Come on, mini-man. Let's kick some bugs before I get bored. She exclaimed, running off into a fray of pyramids. The villager shortly followed behind her, a streak of blood coming from his triangle nose that he quickly wiped away. With Naruto, Palutena, Mew, Yae, and Verity. Alright, everybody ready? Naruto asked, Palutena, Mew, and Yae having just finished putting on the last of their clothing. I still don't understand why thou hath withheld our panties. Palutena said. Oh, that's simple, really. Naruto stated, pulling out a flagpole that held Palutena's white lacy panties, Mew's black lingerie panties, and Yae's red thong. At the sight of this, Yae began blushing and looking down at the ground as if it was the most interesting thing in the world. Of all days, why did I choose today to wear those, Yae thought, hiding her now beet red face with her hands. This shall be my trophy flag. The flag that symbolizes the Naruto Ramen Empire. Naruto exclaimed, turning into a chibi Naruto holding the flag behind a rising sun alongside an equally excited chibi Verity. Before anything else could be said, a small alien-like fighter jet descended from above, barely avoiding a collision with Naruto and his group. As the fighter jet passed by, Naruto was able to catch a glimpse of its pilot. The fox? Naruto thought, not even a millisecond later, the fighter jet crashed through the clouds and down into the jungle below. What was that? Yae asked. Breedwiniai and Mew said. For the glory of the log. Naruto yelled, leaping down the hole the fighter jet had made, the panties flag held with both hands. For the log. Verity exclaimed, grinning as she jumped down after Naruto. For the hell of it. Mew exclaimed, jumping down after the blonde duo. Jenkins Lee. Palutena exclaimed, jumping down after the rest of the group. Yae just stood there silently, watching the blonde pervert of a professor lead the charge down. Screw it. She mumbled, jumping down after the rest of the group. She yelled in her descent. Unknown location. Down in the jungle, in the deepest part of a lake, was a slumbering creature. Boom was the resonating sound that came from above the lake as the alien-like fighter jet from earlier crashed into the earthen crust surrounding the small body of water. Brrrrrrr was the growling sound that came from the creature. Its eyes began glowing yellow before the strange runes that ran across its body lit up as well. The light from the runes revealed the creature to be a large green, serpentine creature. It had red-tipped rudder-like wings on its shoulders and down its body, and similarly patterned fins on the tip of its tail. Yellow ring-like symbols ran across its body, lighting up its frame with an additional yellow ring on top of its head. The creature had 2 limbs with 3 clawed hands and 2 long flat horn-like structures on its head, with 2 shorter horns along its jawline. It had small, yellow eyes with black pupils, prominent pink gums, and 2 discerning fangs in its upper jaw. Grr. Its growls grew louder and louder with each passing seconds, feeling more presences enter its territory away from home. Grrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr entered its territory. With Naruto, Palutena, Viridi, Mew, and Y. Naruto was the first to land on the ground, followed by Viridi, then Mew, then Palutena, and lastly Y. The group surveyed their surroundings, finding that they had landed on the shores of a small lake with a dense jungle surrounding them on all sides. A few yards away from them was the same fighter jet from earlier, only it was smoking and half buried in dirt from the crash. "That's the ship we saw earlier," Naruto stated. "We have to get whoever is in there out." Why exclaimed, only to be stopped by Naruto's hand. "Hold on," Naruto said, his eyes darting to the right. "What is it?" Palutena asked. "There's someone coming to this location very quickly," Naruto stated. "Who?" Mew asked, only to get her answer when a figure jumped out from the trees. The figure stood at 3'8" wearing a red shirt with 2 yellow stars and a red hat with brown fur and a tail. "A monkey?" Verity questioned. The monkey in question took notice of the others present when Verity spoke. "Ah. Who are you people? What's that metal thing in the ground?" the monkey exclaimed. "You guys are aliens. You've set up an ambush and are going to suck out my brain." "The hell are you talking about, kid?" Mew said. "We're not aliens. What's your name?" Naruto asked. "You guys go first," the monkey said. "Alright, fine. My name's Naruto Uzumaki and these are my companions Palutena, Verity, Mew, and Y," Naruto stated, motioning to each person as he introduced them. "Okay, I'm Diddy Kong," the monkey, now named Diddy Kong, stated. "Well, it's nice to meet," Naruto said, only to be cut off by the rumbling sound coming from the lake. "What was that?" Diddy questioned, receiving his answer in the form of a green Chinese dragon-like creature emerging from the lake. "Rayquaza," the creature exclaimed. "Rayquaza?" Mew questioned. Rayquaza's eyes darted down to Mew. "Something's wrong," she muttered, sensing Rayquaza's aura. "You can feel it too?" Naruto asked. "What are you talking about?" Palutena questioned. "Yeah, enlighten us all," Verity said. "You know, for two goddesses, I thought you guys would sense it as well," Mew stated. "What do you mean?" Y asked. "Rayquaza's aura has been corrupted," Naruto replied. "What?" Verity questioned. "Let me put it this way, Rayquaza is being controlled to an extent by some unknown force," Naruto stated. "What do you mean by to an extent?" Y questioned. "I mean that Rayquaza is still conscious but has reverted to a more primal state of mind," Naruto explained. "Meaning?" Palutena asked. "Which means that right now, he sees us as threats for entering his territory," Mew stated. "Ryu." Rayquaza growled, firing off an energy ball at the fighter jet, setting the vehicle aflame. "Grayo!" it exclaimed, rushing towards Diddy Kong, grabbing said monkey boy before rounding about and grabbing Mew. Rayquaza circled back around, diving into the lake slightly before coming back out and staring at Mew. Mew's eyes widened a fraction before Rayquaza let out another growl. "When I say now, be prepared to get that woman out of there, I'll get the monkey out," a voice whispered out. "Wha?" Naruto called out, having heard the voice. Humming out from the flaming fighter jet and shooting into the air was the fox from earlier. The person in question stood at 5'8" and was an anthropomorphic fox with orange-brown fur and golden wood-highlighted hair cut into a crew cut. He had green eyes and the rest of his skin was a cream-colored tone. He also had a bushy white-tipped foxtail which appeared stubby. He wore an orange jumpsuit with a flight jacket and grey tanker boots, along with a strange communication device on his head. "Now!" the fox exclaimed, vanishing in an afterimage and slamming through Rayquaza's hand that held Diddy Kong. Reacting quickly, Naruto vanished using a Shunshin no Jutsu, body flicker technique, reappearing near Mew. With a swift chakranance chop to Rayquaza's arm, Mew was released. Naruto quickly grabbed her bridal style and vanished in a similar manner and reappearing on the shore. Diddy Kong quickly made his way to the shore. "Grrr." Rayquaza growled, firing off an energy ball at the fox, who pressed a button on his belt that brought up a wall of energy that sent the energy ball firing back at Rayquaza and sending the legendary Pokemon crashing into the lake. "Are you alright?" Naruto asked, a breeze coming out of nowhere and causing his hair to sway gently in the wind. He just looked so heroic. Mew couldn't help the blush that spread across her face. "Yeah," Mew stuttered out. "Thanks for the assist," the fox said, Naruto placing Mew back on her feet. "Naruto Uzumaki," Naruto said, introducing himself, his eyes locked on the lake and preparing for Rayquaza's assault. "Fox McCloud." The fox, now identified as Fox McCloud, stated before turning to Diddy Kong and the others. "Are you guys combat ready?" "Yeah," Diddy said, slightly shaken by the experience. "Aye," Palutena exclaimed. "Bring it on," Verity exclaimed. "Let's do this," Y exclaimed. "Ryu!" Rayquaza yelled, shooting out of the lake and preparing another attack. But Samus and Greninja. The doors to the room automatically opened, Samus aiming her gun through the room with Greninja right behind her. The duo swiftly maneuvered to the center of the room, only to be greeted to the sound of two electrical generators. "Pikachu?" Samus gasped. In the center of the room was two generators, one containing Pikachu and the other containing his evolutionary counterpart, Raichu. Raichu was a bipedal rodent-like Pokémon covered in dark orange fur with a cream belly. Its arms and feet had patches of brown fur at the end, and the soles of its big feet were tan with a circular orange pad. Its bifurcated ears were brown on the outside and yellow on the insides, and ended in a distinctive curl. The electric sacs on its cheeks were yellow, and it had two horizontal brown stripes on its back. Its long thin tail had a lightning bolt-shaped end. Greninja! Greninja exclaimed. Pikaii! Pikachu exclaimed in pain. Bye! Raichu exclaimed in pain as well, both Pokémon having their electrical energy sapped from them to power the facility. Phew! Pikachu exclaimed, crying out for help. Samus flicked her wrist, causing her paralyzer to turn into a whip before she slammed the electrical whip into the generators, destroying both and freeing Pikachu and Raichu. The alarm began blaring as the two electric Pokémon got out and recovered. Clang was the resonating metallic sound that caught the group's attention. Near the corner of the room was a small metallic robot with an oversized electrical plug coming out its back. It appeared to be chained to the corner and slowly slipping into unconsciousness. "What is that?" Samus questioned. Pika Pie. Pikachu replied. Raichu. Raichu asked Greninja. Greninja said, nodding its head before forming a water shuriken and throwing it at the chain, severing it from the wall and releasing the miniature robot from its captivity. Pikachu! Pikachu exclaimed, firing a thundershock at the robot. The robot, who was now on the verge of shutting down, had quickly perked up, electricity powering the robot. "Are you alright?" Samus asked, the miniature robot pulling out a sign with the word yes written on it. "What's your name?" she questioned, only to receive no answer. Raichu. Raichu stated. Greninja added. Can you only answer yes or no?" Samus asked, the robot pulling out a sign that said yes. "Okay, is there any way you can show us what to call you?" The miniature robot moved its hands over its head and pushed down. Shrink." The robot pulled out a sign that said no. Air small. The robot didn't move, only holding up the sign that said no. Miniature. Mini. Chibi. The robot pulled out a sign that said yes before motioning to himself. "Alright, Chibi Metal." The robot pulled out a sign that said no. "Chibi Robo." The robot pulled out a sign that said yes. "Alright, your name is Chibi Robo." The robot, now identified as Chibi Robo, held the sign that said yes and nodded its head in confirmation. The door finally opened up, revealing a mob of robotic operating buddies, or ROBs, in the doorway. "Intruders detected." One of the ROBs stated, locking onto Raichu, Pikachu, Samus, Greninja and Chibi-Robo as they each got into a fighting stance. "Why do things always have to be so difficult?" Samus mumbled. "But Naruto, Fox, Diddy Kong, Palutena, Mew, Viridi and Y. Scatter." Naruto exclaimed as everybody jumped out of the way to dodge a hyper beam that left a searing scar on the ground. "Ryuo!" Rayquaza exclaimed, releasing a mighty roar that shook the earth around it. Naruto's eyes narrowed before he pulled out a Pokeball. "What doth thou haveth in thine hand?" Palutena asked, noticing the small red and white ball. "Well, the best way to fight a Pokémon is with a Pokémon," Naruto stated, turning to one side. "The following warning is to be administered by the cops, CrimsonKyuubiSage obviously present stereotypical stuff." "Who are you talking to?" Fox asked. "Bruh," Rayquaza said. "He's right. Isn't it obvious?" "You know," Naruto said, jerking his head to the opposite side. No we don't." "Why?" said. "DCH, don't bother with them. Most mortals can't even comprehend this," Viridi stated. "Just get on with what you were doing." "Alright. Where was I again?" Naruto asked. "Grow. Grow. Rayquaza said, pointing to a specific spot in the dirt. "Oh yeah, thanks," Naruto said, coughing a little before going back into a serious pose. "Come on out, Kusanada." When the light died down, a female Ninetales stood proud and tall. Ninetales was a fox-like quadruped Pokémon covered with a luxurious snow-white fur, contrary to the normal golden-white fur of most Ninetales. She had 9 long tails, each of which were tipped with scarlet red. There was a fluffy crest atop her head and a small mane around her neck. The Ninetales also had gleaming blue eyes, yet again making the Ninetales more distinct than other ones. Her ears were pointed and it had long, slender legs with 3-toed paws. A scarlet-red circular pattern was adorned on her head, with markings of a similar color just above her eyes and right below them as well. "Oh? Something is different about this Ninetales," Mew stated as Fox, Palutena, Viridi, Y, and Diddy Kong distracted Rayquaza. "Yeah, she's bonded to my chakra in a similar manner as aura bonding is done," Naruto stated. "Is that how you can communicate with Pokémon so easily?" Mew asked, a small but noticeable smirk appearing on Naruto's face. No, I was able to communicate with Pokemon long before that. Naruto replied before turning to Kusanada. You ready for this? You betcha I am. Kusanada telepathically exclaimed. Oh? Your aura must be very strong for you to be able to respond in this manner. Last Pokemon that wasn't a Lucario I ever got wind of being able to talk in JAP English was a Meowth, and he wasn't able to get to the level where he could communicate through telepathy. Mew said. Naruto's aura. Kusanada telepathically started. Chakra. Naruto corrected. Right, whatever the hell that is, it was so immense that as a byproduct of our aura bonding my own aura levels increased. I've heard it's usually the other way around. Kusanada telepathically finished. Now's not the time to reminisce. Naruto said. We could use a hand dealing with this thing. Fox exclaimed, rolling under an energy ball courtesy of Rayquaza. Why, Palutena, Viridi, and Diddy Kong were each trying to get shots on Rayquaza, but ultimately did not do that much damage to the legendary Pokemon. Right? You want to do this the quick and easy way? Kusanada telepathically asked, the trio ignoring the battle right behind them. I was thinking along the lines of that. Naruto stated. What are you talking about? Mew asked. You know, most people don't really know this. But I'm actually a Pokemon professor. Naruto said. And Mew questioned, unknowing of where this conversation was heading. So, that means I focus on a certain aspect of Pokemon to research. Naruto replied. That aspect just so happens to be Mega Evolution. At this, Mew's eyes widened. Mega Evolution was something that had been around as long as herself. But despite centuries upon centuries of existence, she still had a vague knowledge on the strange stones. And you want to know a little secret? Naruto questioned, leaning in close. I've made a breakthrough. He whispered, pulling out an familiar necklace that had a green crystal attached to it and putting said necklace on. You see, I've come to the conclusion that these mega stones that people use are nothing more than stones that have potent power. The key stone is just the catalyst used to awaken the power that triggers the temporary mega evolution. So that means with enough power and a strong bond, any Pokemon can achieve mega evolution. Less talking, more battling. Kusanada telepathically exclaimed. Right. I think it's better if you just see it with your own eyes. Naruto said. Kurama. Let's do this. I've been hankering for some action. Kurama said from inside the seal. Naruto's form suddenly lit with golden flames that flickered off every now and then. Time to sync up. Naruto exclaimed, both Kusanada and himself jumping up into the air, a blinding light coming from the crystal necklace as the two jumped towards each other. The light became so bright that all had to turn away lest they risk the chance of going blind. When the light died down, a towering figure made of white flames that flickered and danced lightly in the wind. The giant stood at around 300 feet, with 6 arms and 3 conjoined fox heads, with Naruto and Kusanada in the center of the head with their eyes closed. Rayquaza called out meekly, sweating at the new form. The others around the legendary Pokemon weren't doing much better either. Everyone, save for Mew, Palutena, and Viridi, were barely holding on to consciousness from the blonde's presence alone, and even then the 3 immortals had been forced to drop to their knees from Naruto's immense energy. Izushio no Hajish plus Kaminakari, wrath of the tempestuous god of whirlpools. The creature yelled, its voice sounding like a mixture between Naruto, Kurama, and Kusanada's. Such power, Palutena muttered. Impossible, no human can have this much energy and still be sane, Viridi mumbled. Mew said nothing, her words dying on her tongue as she could not find the will to verbalize her thoughts. Time to finish this in one go. The creature exclaimed, pulling all 3 of its right hands back before going in to punch Rayquaza, who was now frozen in fear. Ruaig. It cried out. There was a large blinding explosion the moment all 3 fists impacted against Rayquaza, and when the light died down, Rayquaza was crashed into a crater and the fiery creature was gone, Naruto and Kusanada standing in its place. With Takaka and the villager. The once quiet and peaceful village that had been invaded by Primids had quickly pushed back the shadow bug threat thanks to the combined efforts of Takaka and the villager. Sure, a few buildings had been completely turned into piles of rubble, and there was more than a few villagers who would never look at salmons, feathers, and even breadsticks the same way ever again, but there were no casualties whatsoever. That was easy for Tao, creepy man. Takaka said with her ever-cheerful tone, never noticing the psychotic gleam in the villager's eyes. Either Takaka didn't notice or she just didn't care about the psycho man's gleam in favor of instead dropping on the group with a pout. Now I'm bored. Excuse me. A voice called out, causing Takaka and the villager to turn in the direction of said voice. Could you possibly tell me where exactly am I? With Naruto, Kusanada, Mew, Palutena, Viridi, Wai, Fox, and Diddy Kong. Well, that was fun. Naruto said cheerfully. Yeah, it's been a while since we actually used that form. That green lizard wasn't even a warm-up. Kusanada telepathically complained. You mean you could do more than that? Viridi practically yelled. And you're not a deity? Nope. Though I've defeated a few self-proclaimed gods before. Naruto stated, thinking back on Nagato and Obito. Well, Palutena stuttered out, looking down at the ground with a blush on her face. Sure, I'm godlike. I've got the lightly tanned skin, golden blonde hair, blue eyes, and the ability to level massive cities with one move and not break a sweat. But I'm nowhere near immortal. Naruto said casually, as if he were talking about the weather, causing everyone to sweat drop at the blonde's antics. Another victory for the Naruto Ramen Empire. He exclaimed, pulling out the panties flag and planting it in the ground whilst striking a heroic pose. Are those Fox questioned? Yep. Viridi chirped happily. From Fox asked. Every chick here except for me. Viridi replied. What are you two talking about? Diddy Kong asked. Nothing. Ask again when you're older. Viridi said. Phooey. Diddy Kong complained, dropping onto the ground with his hands crossed. His eyes widened when he remembered what he was going to ask. Oh yeah. You guys gotta help me save my uncle Donkey Kong. He got turned into a trophy by that giant turtle man. Trophy? Turtle man? Naruto questioned. If he was turned into a trophy, then didn't they? Well, you know, Viridi said, making a slashing motion near her neck. No. Not that. The giant turtle man used this strange gun that fired a black arrow that turned Uncle DK into this statue that had a trophy stand. Diddy corrected. Easy beep tick Mr. Game and Watch exclaimed. The dark cannon? Naruto questioned aloud. What are you mumbling about? Viridi asked. I've got Mr. Game and Watch in my head and he's been informing me of most of the stuff here as we encounter it. Naruto stated. Not to seem rude, but I don't know who any of you guys are, other than Naruto. Fox stated. Right, I am Palutena started. The green-haired chick is Palutena, the pink-haired chick is Mew, Lil Blondie is Viridi, the literal white chick is Yae, the monkey is Diddy Kong. Naruto said questionably at the last name, receiving a nod of confirmation from Diddy. Diddy Kong, and this Ninetales here is Kusanada. What up? Kusanada telepathically said. Please help me save my uncle. Diddy interrupted, begging and pleading to the group. Okay, I'm in. Naruto exclaimed, giving half an eye smile and a thumbs up. You can count on me to bayo. Thou shall not needeth to worry. Thou haveth my assistance to counteth on as well. Palutena said, standing tall with her right hand extended and holding her staff. Things would be too boring around here if I didn't come along. I guess you can count me in as well. Viridi said, a grin present on her face as she pulled out a strange wooden staff. This will be a good exercise. I'm in as well. Yae said, striking a fighting pose. This is the most fun I've had in a long time. Count me in on the rescue mission. Mew exclaimed, levitating off the ground slightly as she was covered in a visible pink aura, her eyes glowing a bright blue. Well, don't look at me, I've got to contact the rest of Team Star Fox, and Fox started, walking off in a different direction, but was quickly grabbed by Diddy Kong and dragged by said monkey in the opposite direction he wanted to head in, Naruto, Palutena, Mew, Viridi, and Yae following shortly after the duo. Let it be known that I am a victim in this case, not one of the accomplices. Fox grumbled, crossing his arms as he was being dragged. You're making it sound like we're forcing you to do this. Naruto stated, an eye smile present on his face. You guys are forcing me to do this. Fox said. Details, Naruto said, waving his hands dismissively. By the way, what was that thing you did? You know, the giant flaming six-handed creature. Yae asked. That thing. It's nothing much, really. Naruto said, scratching the back of his head. Nothing, my nine-tailed ass. That it got to be the most baddest thing I've ever done. Kusanada exclaimed. The hive mind thing kinda feels weird though. Hive mind? Palutena questioned. Well, the best way to understand this is for me to explain the entire concept behind the Azushio no Hajis plus Kaminakari. Naruto said, pulling out a pair of glasses from seemingly nowhere, along with a pointer stick and a projector, giving the blonde an overall professor look. An image of a common Ninetales appeared on the projector, to which Naruto pointed to with his stick. Let's say, for all intent and purposes, you wanted a Pokemon to go through Mega Evolution. What's Mega Evolution? Fox asked. Save all questions for the end. Naruto replied, the image on the projector changing so that Naruto appeared on the screen next to the Ninetales. In order for the process of Mega Evolution to occur, there must be two things present. 1. A deep bond between trainer and Pokemon, and 2. A reactant. A reactant? Mew questioned, the picture changing so that it showed an endothermic forward reaction. It all comes down to simple science. Naruto stated, a red arrow popping up at the bottom left of the graph that ended near the beginning of the curve, followed by a blue arrow that appeared at the bottom right of the graph and ended near the end of the curve, and The link to what the graph looks like will be on my profile. I never thought that I would ever use anything I learned from my chemistry class, but apparently I proved myself wrong. Naruto pointed to the red line. Let's say that this red line here represents the energy levels of your average Pokemon. This blue line, however, Naruto said, pointing to said blue line, represents the energy level of a Mega Evolved Pokemon. Continue, Mew said. With most Pokemon, this change to Mega Evolution would require an absurd amount of activation energy to do. That is where Keystones and Mega Stones come in. Naruto stated, the image changing to a picture of a Keystone and a Charizardite X stone. These Mega Stones, when given to Pokemon, are the reactants that are awaiting stimulus. While the Keystones, on the other hand, are catalysts. The graph appeared once more, only this time, a bright green dotted curve that was shorter than the curve above it and connected the two ends of the line, Naruto pointing to said dotted green line. Like in a chemical reaction, these catalysts stimulate a reaction, only in the case of Pokemon, the activated complex is the Mega Evolution, and the reactants and products are the same, which is basically the Pokemon before Mega Evolution. But like a chemical reaction, the physical and chemical composition of the Pokemon changes, amplifying their elemental prowess and enhancing their special abilities. The picture changed once more back to the Ninetales and Naruto. I have discovered through making Kusanada a familiar of sorts, through a process similar to how a Riolu or a Lucario would bond with a trainer, a process I have deemed known as aura bonding, that this curve here, Naruto stated, the image changing back to the graph as he pointed towards the black curve rather than the green dotted curve, has been altered. What do you mean by altered? Fox asked, having somewhat of an understanding of what the blonde was conveying. Because my own chakra, or aura if you will, is larger in reserves than Kusanada's, instead of altering me, which is what would happen if a Riolu or Lucario aura bonded with a regular trainer whose aura reserves are smaller compared to the Pokemon, I altered Kusanada, thus her fur pigments had been altered from yellow-orange to white and red, increasing her own aura reserves. Naruto explained. Unintentionally, I had increased Kusanada's potential energy, while simultaneously decreasing the amount of activation energy needed to undergo the process of Mega Evolution. Still, this was not enough to actually achieve Mega Evolution, so I consulted a friend of mine, Naruto said, patting his stomach, who helped inspire the idea of making my own catalyst. He finished, pulling out the green crystal. With the help of my friend, Kurama, I was able to embed this crystal with a large amount of his own chakra. The first trail didn't really go down well. What do you mean by that? And who's Kurama? Viridi asked. Kurama is a massive chakra that has manifested conscious thought and is considered a demon by my people and sealed in my gut. No big deal. Naruto said, getting a look of surprise followed by a sweat drop from everyone in the group. As for the first trail, when applied to Kusanada, she basically turned into a rampaging beast with chakra cloak that ran on survival instincts. We were in a near rural area, but I'm still not allowed back into the safari zone in Kanto. Trail number 2 was using the same crystal, only with my own chakra infused in to act as a buffer. Kusanada couldn't handle the strain of so much power, so I had to remove the catalyst before there could be any irreversible damage. Trial numero 3, however, was a success. I saw this in anime called ZBD or something like that where some of the characters did this thing called a fusion dance. It gave me the idea that if I couldn't use my own chakra as a buffer, then I could cut out the middleman by fusing with Kusanada in such a way that Kurama's chakra was accessible, in part of the fact that my own chakra was being directly used as a buffer. Constantly adjusting to influx of chakra so that it wouldn't put physical strain on our bodies. Unfortunately, to compensate for this physical strain, an even greater mental strain was put in its place. That is why we only stayed in that form for less than a minute, because the mental strain was too great for anything longer. Naruto finished, taking off the glasses and putting said glasses, the projector, and the pointer stick away. Wow, Mew said, genuinely shocked and surprised at the revelation, those around her having a similar look present on their faces. Mew quickly recovered from her surprise when a question came to her mind. Wait, does that mean that I could Mega Evolve? It would take some research, and the chances of the same results being duplicated aren't very high, but essentially, yes, it's possible. Naruto replied. Faster than the blonde could blink, Naruto found himself laying on the ground with Mew straddling him. Well, technically I am a Pokemon. So why don't you catch me, train and bond with this Pokemon so she can unlock Mega Evolution? Mew said seductively, though her intentions were clearly laid out. Ever since Mewtwo told her that he could Mega Evolve into not one, but 2 Mega Evolutions, it had become her goal to find a way to Mega Evolve so that her clone wouldn't be so smug about his own Mega Evolutions. And what doth thou thinketh thou art doing? Palutena questioned. I'm trying to get some, what are you doing? Mew retorted. Ooh. Maybe I can convince her and Naruto to get a threesome. You. Palutena exclaimed, a blush present on her face. Naruto, however, just had a shit-eating grin plastered on his face. Yeah, you're right. We should try to convince Wai as well. Yu said, getting a large blush from Wai, who just looked down at the ground and twiddled her thumbs. Oh master, I am not worthy to be in the presence of such a god amongst men. Fox Diddy exclaimed, both dropping down and bowing to Naruto. Yes. More cannon fodder, I mean soldiers for the Naruto Ramen Empire. Praise the log. Naruto exclaimed, pulling out the panties flag. Praise the log. Verity, Fox, and Diddy exclaimed, getting a sweat drop from Yu, Palutena, and Wai. So, does anybody have any idea where we're going? Naruto asked. Was the resonating silence in the area, no one in the group having an answer to the question. Funk. Naruto said. You guys need some assistance. A new voice called out. So this part ends here. Alright, that's it for today's video guys, let me know in the comments section how was the story, and also don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I will meet you in another video, bye bye.